And we are. There we go. Sweet, we're live. Yeah, something about Elden Ring that really just brought everybody in. I like that. There's nothing there. There hasn't been another Souls game that has been like that.
Yeah, well, part of it's just because the Souls games are in such an interesting position to me. So like I've been into the series since 2015,
Mm-hmm.
realistically, and
That was a
you know,
PS3, right? Two, three.
well, it was the PS3 like Xbox 360 era. It was like right before the PS4 like came out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like I ended up playing Dark Souls 2 as my first game in the series, which like for anybody who's played all the games, like that's a weird starting point. It just is. Like Dark Souls 2 is considered probably the worst of the From Software games.
Only because it's mechanically not there, or just just weren't in stride, or what?
Well, it's for a lot of reasons. Like basically, you kind of have to understand like what position From Software was in at the time. So before Demon Souls, FromSoft was basically like they were Armored Core, they were King's Field. Those are the games that they were kind of known for. Were these sort of like
Now
it
I
was
don't
either
know
armor.
Kingsfield, but I've heard of Armored Core.
So Armored Core is basically it's a mech fighter,
Mm-hmm.
but it's sick too. Like
Super
you like
customizable and shit. You got tank treads. You have different type of arms and stuff like that, right?
yeah, like I haven't played them since I was a kid, but from what I remember about them, you could like there was like a whole garage menu, like like the gummy ship in Kingdom Hearts.
I know. I
You ever
never
played
played
Kingdom
Kingdom
Hearts?
Hearts, dude.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think. Like, okay, you know how like in the Need for Speed games, I don't know if you ever played those. But
Never played Need for Speed either.
okay, so okay, just imagine you can take your like mech, you can put it in this giant garage, like it's like a hangar,
Mm-hmm.
and you can like actually rotate your camera around it and see every little detail. And they like made these cool little detailed models for all the mech parts, and you could select each arm and select how many guns you had on it and what type, and you could watch the parts get swapped out. And so it was super cool. And that's what I remember about Armored Core is just like customizing mechs, taking them into missions, and trying to kill stuff with your mechs, and it was really cool. But
I think Miyazaki said
um,
they're wrapping up a game, and people are speculating that's another Armored Core game.
I haven't. I feel like I've heard whispers of that for a while. I don't
And
know if that's like
and mind you, this is like Twitter rumor mill, so you take that
yeah,
with a grain of salt. You know how that is. But you know what? I think an Armored Core in this day and age, so people could be like, "Hey, look, From Software just isn't Souls games. There's something else."
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's like I guess we could talk about Kingsfield too. Like
Yeah,
Kingsfield, you said you never
I
really
never
heard of
played
it
it,
or
so yeah,
played
give
it.
give me give me give me the rundown. Give me the low and dirty.
So Kingsfield's really more of where the DNA of the Souls games comes in, I think, for FromSoft. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you go watch any gameplay at all, think of Kingsfield. It's a dungeon crawler, so you're like in first person view.
Mm-hmm.
Think like, mm, if I imagine you're playing Morrowind, but it's like in slow motion all the time. That's
Hmm.
kind of how Kingsfield plays. It's just,
Okay.
and I mean it's like
Well,
PS1, early PS2
that's what I
era.
say.
I
Was it
think
PS1 PC or something like
I think Kingsfield 1 was on PS1 and
that?
maybe Kingsfield 2. I can't remember, but the first one definitely was on PlayStation 1 and like it's I mean you use the D-pad to move, bro. Like, I mean it's still in
Is
3D
it
space. It's
wait?
a first person
Is it
3D
kind of
game,
like
but like
Resident Evil tank controls and stuff, up to move forward?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you kind of like
And was
yes.
Miyazaki at the helm back then?
Yeah, like forward on the left analog stick to walk forward, but then like left to turn left. And like so you
Yeah.
would stay yes, tank controls, you stay stationary and turn left. If I remember correctly. So it's like, but I mean that's the basics of the game are that you time your sword swings to hit enemies and you can dodge their attacks and block them. And by dodge it's not like a dodge roll, it's just you literally like move out of the way with your slow
Yeah.
ass character. But yeah, the DNA is there, and also it's like a long running thing in FromSoft games. I'm not exactly sure what the origin is, but in every FromSoft game ever, there's been a Moonlight Sword.
You, you,
That's like a long running thing.
that's when I
So
started noticing it because I remember I saw Ruben playing and he got Ludwig's what's it called? Ludwig's broadsword or something?
the Holy Moonlight Sword, yeah,
Yeah.
in
Is it called
Bloodborne.
Ludwig or just called Blood Moon Sword?
Well, you've got Ludwig's Holy Blade is another weapon in Bloodborne, but it's the one that's like a small silver sword that turns into a big silver sword.
Okay. Yeah,
But
and
the Holy Moonlight sword is the one that's like it's like a long great sword kind of
okay. And then I
giving
remember
you.
seeing it doing Ronnie's quest in Elden Ring. I was like,
Yep, that
okay,
gives
cuz
you Elden Ring's version.
yeah, cuz I was like that name sounds oddly familiar, and then I realized, okay, it's a running theme within the Souls games.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so yeah, it's not just the Souls games. It's been around since Kingsfield at least.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah. I want to say I read somewhere that it was like supposed to be. I think it was like a homage to like one of their team members on the original development team that
Mm.
passed away or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but like I wouldn't take
We
that
have
at
to look it
all as
up.
like fact right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Fact check that
Um,
shit.
but yeah, I mean it's just a long running thing in FromSoft games. Every single one of them pretty much has a Holy Moonlight. In fact, I think even the Armored Core games have some reference to it. So,
Wow.
but yeah, so Kingsfield's kind of where I'd say the DNA comes from. So you know, Demon Souls comes out in like 2009. I want to say 2008, 2009.
Mhm.
I can just fact check that. Yeah, 2000. Oh, that's the remake. That is not.
Cuz the
Yeah,
remake was what
2009.
2020, right?
2009 came out in February in Japan, October in North America. Um, and all I remember at the time was that it was like I remember it coming out, but
Mhm.
it was like a blip on my radar. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like a poof that
Dude,
game.
I
I saw
never.
it in a game. I probably saw it in like a Game Informer article, and then like
Mhm.
never thought about it again. You know, I think I remember reading that it was really hard, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not interested. You know, like I don't really. That just wasn't at that point in my life. I was literally like, I don't know, like 16 or something in
What games were
2009.
you
I
playing
can't.
back then? Do you
Uh,
remember?
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft, maybe some Mass Effect.
uh,
You
I didn't
know,
get into the Mass Effect series until after I graduated high school, which would have been like after 2013, if
Y-
you want to feel old today.
you're not gonna make me feel old.
Okay, good.
But I did like Mass Effect. Yeah, it was one of my favorite. Like, I was one. I had a podcast about this, an episode. It was like one of my first favorite Western RPGs. I was like,
Hmm.
wow, I didn't know the West could do RPGs like this, and I was really amazed by it.
Well, it's weird because like I think I caught the series at just the right time in my life
Mm-hmm.
because in the age that I played it, which would have been I would guess it was around 2014 or so was when I played Mass Effect 1 and I played through all three games like in like the span of a couple of months.
Okay.
So I was playing these games a lot and like I think it was just the perfect timing because it was still when it was okay for RPGs to have like really bad combat. Like it was still in that era of like RPGs, you know, when
You
like
know,
sometimes
dude.
an RPG could just be like, oh yeah, because Mass Effect 1, man, I tried that game like four times before I got into it because like at first,
Yes,
I remember the first few times I played, I tried to play like a sniper build, and
the
like the
Infiltrator.
sniping in that
Yeah,
game is really just the
atrocious,
shooting in general is so bad. So I think I ended
atrocious.
up just going with like a shotgun, like biotic build in my first
Yeah,
playthrough, and
dude.
that.
I recently purchased the legendary Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I'm going back to the first game. I'm like, sometimes like one of my sayings is nostalgia is a hard flavor to find. It's just like
Hmm.
why? Just
Yep.
sometimes just leave it in your memories museum.
Yep. It's well, you know, nostalgia is the flavor you can only taste once. You know what I'm
I
saying?
like that. Yeah.
So it's rough. So, but yeah. So Demon Souls. You know, back on that topic.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, like around 2009, I would have been playing like World of Warcraft, and that pretty much would have been my life. You know,
World of Warcraft was big for me too. Yeah.
I was an acne-ridden teenager, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I was playing World of Warcraft, and I I basically was like, you know, at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I was basically a console gamer. Like I didn't own like a gaming PC. I played World of Warcraft on like a crappy family
Same
PC
here.
that had like 2 gigs of RAM and
Same
like
here, dude. I didn't
you
get to become a
know.
PC player until like wait late in my adult, later in my adult life.
And like like I remember we had this family computer set up in our living room,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like our internet was so bad, bro. Like it was literally, I think it wasn't even 1 megabit per
It's
second.
like, mom, get off the phone.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was straight up like it wasn't like dial up or anything like that, but it was like the internet. If I tried to play WoW on it for longer than like 30 minutes, it would like disconnect. because it was like overloading the bandwidth or something, and so I had to like unplug our router and like plug it back in.
And
It
reset
was
it. Oh yeah,
terrible,
dude.
man.
I know. Like my PC was so crappy. Like I had to like open the side, put a box fan next to it just to help cool it off. I had to keep the graphics minimum as
Yep,
possible.
yep, dude. Same. Well, because this is the first time. This is actually segues into the first time I ever played on a gaming PC.
Mm-hmm.
My dad bought this like Cool Ants like pre-built. Cool Ants doesn't even exist. It didn't even exist when he bought the PC anymore. Like it was that's how old that pre-built company was. So Cool Ants was like recently decommissioned. So he got one of these things at like a estate sale or something, and it was like built with this custom water loop, which back in those days was like that was insane if you had a custom water loop. Like that was like the gods of PC building could only do that. Like that was not an accessible thing at all. I mean, I still wouldn't even consider it to be like you're not going to be making custom loops if you're like just a hobbyist generally. You know what
For
I mean?
real, yeah. Like nowadays, when you see these computers like RGB and water cooling, I'm like,
Hmm.
holy shit, man.
Like I can't make builds that look that insane. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I can build a functional PC, but
I can't. I
you
gotta like rely on Ruben. Like Ruben, I'll buy the parts to help me out. He's like, okay.
know. So it's like basically, yeah. My dad had a very similar setup where it was like we had this custom water loop in this computer, but it didn't work anymore. So we
Mm-hmm.
just had a big desk fan like blowing into the
Just cool
side
it
of the
off, yeah.
chassis. It was just like the worst looking thing ever. And that's the first time I ever started rating in WoW, was because I had a PC that could run the game at more than 10 FPS. So
Yeah.
guilds actually like wanted me because I could input buttons into the game and they would do things.
What were you playing? You were playing a tank
So
back then, right?
No, actually, I've always been pretty much every patch in WoW that I've rated, I play melee DPS.
Okay.
Almost every patch, and it's not even necessarily because like I prefer melee DPS like so much over the other roles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that like I just tend to like the classes in melee DPS like design wise a lot. Like I was a rogue main for a long time, then I was a warrior main for a really really long time, like 8 years. I played warrior straight. And
Wow.
then pretty much since like Wrath or not Wrath, since like Mists of Pandaria, I've swapped mains like usually once an expansion, maybe twice.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I'll usually pick a new main at the beginning of the next expansion, and then sometimes I've swapped mid expansion depending on like what we were doing.
What'd you think of Death Knights?
Um, Death Knights. I
Yeah.
mean, I actually used to hate Death Knight.
What
I couldn't
happened?
stand. I couldn't stand its like early incarnations
'Cause it was like
and
Frost, Blood, and Plague build, I think.
Unholy. Yeah.
Unholy or something. Yeah.
And so yeah, when it came to World of Warcraft, or when it came to Death Knights, I just was never like a huge fan of the rune system and like the runic power. I didn't like juggling two resources very much, which is funny now because all the class design in modern World of Warcraft is like building and spending resource bars. That's like how every class is designed nowadays in World of Warcraft. So, it's kind of funny because WoW's still one of my favorite games gameplay wise. But and the reasons I don't like Death Knights, modern Death Knights, is mostly just down to like certain meta builds, like Frost DK right now, and for a long time, like maybe 6 or 7 years now, has kind of been built around this one talent called Breath of Sindragosa, and it might as well not even be a talent because it's always the one you take. So the other two things that get put on the same row as it are just like, yep, not going to use those.
Don't
'Cause I
don't
gotta
need
take
those.
Breath of Sindragosa. And Breath of Sindragosa is like a cool ability visually. You basically you build up your runic power to max, and then you activate Breath of Sindragosa. A big dragon head comes out of your face, and you just start spraying cold fire in front of you, right? And it looks sick, but it drains your runic power. So during your Breath of Sindragosa, you want to activate your other DPS cooldowns because they start generating more runic power for you, and you can keep breath going as long as it doesn't reach 0 runic power.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole way that breath plays is that you do damage in like this 30-second window, and then you barely do any damage for like the next 3 minutes. And it's just kind of lame,
Oh wow.
because those 30 seconds are amazing and they feel super cool. But then the other 3 minutes that you're just like slapping dudes with some frost shards, you're just like, man, this sucks, dude. Like,
And then
I just
and then
wanna,
you throw up recount like to come on damage.
not to mention that like Frost DK right now is one of the visually like coolest classes in World of Warcraft. So it makes me sad that I don't like playing it, but. Yeah, I've always been more of an unholy guy anyway when it comes to DK.
There's
I just really
sometimes
like the
there's some times where I'm like, man, playing an MMO would be fun, but I'm like, would it be WoW that I go back to? Or I hear a lot of good things about Final Fantasy 14, and then but in the back of my mind, it's always, all right, Rick, you have a full-time job, you have all these hobbies. can you
Okay.
afford doing an MMO? And you know what? I hear the argument. I have a friend Tova who says, "Look, Rick, you could just go in there and just use that as a social escape to just hang out with friends and just be silly and goof off. You don't always have to raid." But me personally, I'm pretty competitive, so I would want to do the raids. I would want to have the
Yeah.
nice gears and enchantment and gems, or and just being on
Yeah.
the top dog. That's just me
I'm the
personally.
same as you. I'm the same as you, man. Well, because like, I guess I haven't mentioned this before, but
Mm.
like, World of Warcraft is a game I played semi-professionally for a little
Dude,
bit.
did you?
Like, in Legion,
Hmm.
I was in a top 100 Mythic guild. So this is out of roughly 20,000 guilds that were going
Wow.
on leaderboard, and our guild ranked 72 and 64.
Impressive. Nice.
Which Mythic rating in WoW is like, it's super hard, man. Like some of those fights when you're doing them as under geared as you are in prog rating, like
And mythic means it's just in a higher difficulty tier, right?
yeah. So Mythic is just the highest difficulty of PVE content in
Because
World of
it was
Warcraft.
like regular,
Basically,
heroic.
since like 2013, they added the Mythic tag.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily meant to be like just imagine like heroic 25 mans back in the day. That's
Mm-hmm.
just Mythic now. That's like
Okay.
yeah. So and I guess I can explain this since you haven't played WoW in a long time. But
No,
essentially, WoW
since
has added like
Cataclysm.
player scaling to most of its group content now. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a like say you go into a raid like a normal difficulty raid. Okay, there's four difficulties. You've got Raid Finder, which is like the LFR that they added in Cataclysm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
You can queue into it. The bosses basically have no mechanics because you're queuing into a bunch of random people, so there's no like communication or anything. You just kind of have to hope it works. And LFR sucks, so we kind of just ignore that exists. So you got like normal, then you got heroic, and then you've got mythic, right? Normal and heroic, both of those you can bring a raid team of 10 to 30 people, anywhere between that or at those, and the game will scale the boss health
Yeah.
and like all that stuff to like and also certain mechanics like if you bring like 30 people, then like certain mechanics that would target like 2 people in a 10-man raid will target like 5 people in a 30-man raid, right?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I remember my friends telling me about that. Like after I left the game already, but I remember like yeah, they had this stuff where it's scaled because I guess it was, it'd be a challenge to find exactly 10 people or exactly X amount of people, and that way you could just have your set group, even if it's an odd number. The dungeon, the raid will scale to the appropriate number of people in the party.
Yeah, and I want to say that these were added at the same time. I'm pretty sure, like raid scaling and mythic difficulty, because they basically restructured it at the end of Mists of Pandaria.
Mm-hmm.
The very last raid in Mists of Pandaria was originally on the old school style of like normal 10 and normal 25, and then you had heroic 10 and heroic 25, if I remember correctly. And
Don't quote
so
me.
like the pre-patch for Warlords of Draenor, they added a mythic difficulty for Siege of Orgrimmar, which was the raid at the time, and then they changed the heroic and normal difficulties to be at the time they called it flex rating was like the term they had for it at the time. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's just scaling content. Like there's no name for it. It's just how it works, right? Because this is pretty standard in MMOs now. So yeah, at the time they were like, yeah, here's this flex rating feature, and it's in a lot of ways it's good because if you're in like a pretty casual guild or even like a semi-hardcore guild that only wants to do like heroic difficulty,
Yeah.
then you can bring like any group of your friends. If someone has to drop out for the night, then you're not like out of person. But in Mythic, the boss encounters are designed around 20 people, so it's the only raid difficulty where you have to bring like a specific amount of people, and that's the raid team size, right? So you still have to deal with like the old school roster boss where like you bring in this warrior and then he wants to invite his friend who's like a priest, and then they both join the guild, and the warrior's like pretty decent, and then the priest like sucks, but you don't want to like get rid of the priest because
And,
then the warrior might leave.
and he's discipline build,
And
like, oh, discipline build priest.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's that whole thing. It still exists in World of Warcraft, but because of the way it's designed now, and Mythic difficulty raid gear not being so much higher than all the other gear in the game,
Mm-hmm.
like you can still get the best gear in the game only comes from Mythic raiding because it's like easily the hardest thing to do in World of Warcraft right now and has been for a while. it's Blizzard's like big ticket thing. That's like that's what they're known for is their raids. And
Yeah.
like their raids are always pretty fucking good. So
For sure.
I can't really complain about that particular aspect of the game. Raids are always pretty good, but because the Mythic raid gear isn't so much far ahead of everything else, it means that you don't need to Mythic raid at all to like do the rest of the content in the game. Pretty much, like even if you want to push like the Mythic Plus dungeon system all the way to like plus 20s and stuff on your keys and get the meta achievements and stuff
Oh.
every season, you can do that without Mythic rating. It's possible. It's a little bit harder, like just a little bit, but totally possible for anybody who wants to do that. And even that's like a smaller subset of players. So the Mythic rating community is just very small in the grand scheme of like the game, even though the rating scene as a whole is like pretty big.
Yeah.
But at the time, like in Legion, I joined this like top 100 guild, kind of by accident, honestly. Like, I basically just like lied. I was like, yeah, I'm like super good at the game, like I was in a top 300 guild. I just made up some guild. They didn't even like vet me at all. And then,
Yeah, I'm
so
gonna lead a
they
strip all
invite
the
me to this
time.
guild, and I'm playing like this. I'm playing Enhancement Shaman, bro, which is like an off meta spec of an off meta spec at the time.
You know,
I mean,
one of my good friends played Enhancement Shaman, and he swear to death. I mean, swear to freaking everything that it could do everything. I'm like, okay. And he defended, and he loved it.
Thing, bro. Like,
Tell me.
I loved Enhancement Shaman and Legion, bro. That shit was awesome. That is such a good spec. I played the fuck out of that shit. Like, and it's funny because basically I just got lucky because Enhancement just happened to be very strong in the first raid of that expansion. So I got into this guild and I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like press Storm Strike for 10 minutes and we'll kill the boss. This will be great.
Just let me know when the bloodlust.
Exactly.
So let me know when the bloodlust. I gotcha.
And so yeah, that was pretty much how that happened. But I put more time into that expansion gameplay hour wise than I probably did like the rest of the expansions ever that I've played.
How was life after Legions?
Well, first of all, my guild fell apart because
Power struggle.
Well, essentially what happened was second major content patch comes out for Legion, okay? 7.2. Tomb of Sargeras is a new raid that comes out with the patch, right? My guild, we cleared Kill Jaden, final boss. We cleared him on Mythic difficulty after 743 wipes. We wiped on that boss for a
734
week
wipes.
straight. I raided 5 days a week, man. We wiped on him for like 8 hours a day for like 5 days.
But that's how you do it. That's how you become the top end guild, right? That's how you get on top of the leaderboards, by doing it, making it a full-time job, right?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, and that was the thing, right? Is that like this was in like 2017. I was unemployed at the time. I didn't have shit to do, and I was living with my dad, so I was just kind of like,
why not?
Yeah, I'll just play WoW all day. Like, what the fuck, and it was basically my guild fell apart because we spent so much. Like, you got to understand, Tomb of Sargeras after the world first clear was considered the hardest raid Blizzard had ever made. It probably still is up there. I think it's at least top 2. Just because of the meta in the game at the time, and Kill Jaden was mega overtuned. No one even beat him unnerfed. He went through like one round of nerfs before he got beaten. First time. So yeah, which is funny because like, I mean, it's just anyway. I was about to go off on a tangent, but basically like, yeah, it was a crazy hard raid. We spent a lot of hours. Like, just because the second to last boss, Fallen Avatar, could have been the final boss, and that would have felt great balance wise. But then Kill Jaden was a thing right afterwards, and like that fight was insane, man. It was just crazy. So yeah, we beat Kill Jaden like the start of week 3 after 2 rounds of gear. That's how long it took us, and we ranked like low 60s, which was crazy. It was the highest we'd ever gotten, but because we'd put in like 200 hours of gameplay over the last like 2 weeks, we were like, well, I don't really want to play World of Warcraft anymore.
Got burned out.
My guild, my GM was basically like, he went on this like big racist tirade about how like everyone in our guild was a bunch of lazy N-words and stuff, and it was just like, wow, I didn't know that was the person that you are. So
Right?
basically, we just had like a bunch of people leave the guild. We all quit, and then I just unsubbed for a few months because I was just like, man, like I played too much of this
There's
game.
there's life outside of WoW. Like there's other video
Yeah,
games.
dude, there's a dungeon in Legion called Mauve Souls.
Uh huh.
I did that dungeon over 500 times, man.
How bad is it? Or how good is
Just,
it?
I mean, it's a good dungeon. It's
Okay,
just
well, it has
like
to be a good dungeon then.
the reason that I grinded it so hard is because uh you could get artifact power, which was like a resource that you used to upgrade your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
There was like an infinite ranking trait on it that they added that patch. That was basically like if you grind enough artifact power, which came from like pretty much everything in the game. If you grinded enough artifact power to level up your thing, you could theoretically get up to like rank 60 on that trait in like the first month, and then you would have a pretty big. I mean, you'd have like a 3% damage increase over what you would without the trait. Which
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a crazy grind for a 3% damage increase, but you gotta understand, like in World of Warcraft, it's kind of like Path of Exile, where like if you increase the base damage numbers by like a couple of percent, then everything that gets calculated after that means that
Exponential down the road.
you're exponentially. So it was like a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So my guild was like, okay, well we're gonna set up like actual Mythic Plus teams to go grind Mauve Souls and this was a common strategy because Mauve Souls was a very short dungeon. You could complete it. You could complete one key on like a plus 15 and less than 10 minutes.
Oh wow.
So we would just sit there and just like run Mauve Souls keys, like, and like you basically create a 4-person party, and then you like hop on the group finder, and you're like, we will pay you 1,000 gold for your Mauve Souls 15 key, and people would just bring it in, and then our super beefed up characters, we
Just start
like,
pulling shit and running
yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah. It
Just
was
go,
run the
go,
dungeon
go,
for
buff
'em.
up. Let's start pulling.
And yeah, that's the most I've ever played World of Warcraft for sure. And that was also when I
So when
yeah.
did the burnout happen? Was it shortly after that?
Yeah, it was literally like the week after we killed Jaden. Like we finished that fight and we were like, all right, we'll see you for re-clear next week. And then like only half people showed up.
Like, where's everybody at?
You know, I got there like 15 minutes late because I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I showed up and our guild leader's like going on this rant, and I was like,
Calling you
oh
racist and
man,
shit,
that's
yeah.
that's the thing about WoW guilds, bro. Like, I mean, maybe it's not. I guess I shouldn't say WoW guilds because this could apply to like pretty much any internet community. But that shit can be gone in like a day.
Oh yeah.
It can just be gone. Like one person decides that they hate another person, and then it just falls apart.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And so, any excitement for Dragonflight? I think it's called Dragonflight, right? The new expansion coming out.
yeah.
Are you the kind of player that expansion comes out? I'm gonna re-up maybe like a month or two, check it out, see what maybe visit some old friends, try out the new dailies, see the new dungeons, and then chunk deuce. Or how is it when you see a new expansion? As a big time fan of the series,
Well, I'll tell you what.
tell me,
I don't trust any corporation. Okay, that's just how I am.
bro. That's not a bad thing to live
But
by.
so like, especially with like how like with what Blizzard has been, the past couple of years.
Let me see. Let's name it off. Just Activision Blizzard with the whole scandals going on, the whole Blitzchung Free Taiwan thing, the whole Diablo Immortal that's recently been going on. I mean, there's just hasn't been a stretch of time where you don't see Activision Blizzard in the spotlight for doing something stupid.
Well, it's funny to me too because it's like, dude, a lot of the complaints that people have had, or at least, okay, I shouldn't say people because I mostly mean me, but like
Okay.
a lot of the problems that I've had with World of Warcraft forever are problems that like people have started really pointing out en masse, like in the past few years. Just like general game design decisions and stuff, and like also Blizzard, and this isn't just the WoW team. This is actually kind of like on a Blizzard-wide level, and has been this way even before Activision owned them. Like, sorry, but like old Blizzard kind of sucked sometimes too. Blizzard's always had this weird relationship with the community where they can be pretty stuck up. Like,
Oh, yeah?
they can there's been lots of documented history of Blizzard devs just being like, oh yeah, the fans are idiots. They don't know what they want. We're just gonna design the game like this. Like it's.
I have some an anecdotal evidence, not evidence, but just like stories that I heard other people talk about. Like, I think Jeff Kaplan said, no, I think like from what I remember, and take it with a grain of salt. One of the players characters was using Genji in a different way that he was supposed to, and Jeff Kaplan's like, no, you're supposed to use this character like this. So then he went back and changed the character so you could play it like this as meant to be. I mean, his role was to be like this, and this is how you play it. I'm just like,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's like that's the pretty standard Blizzard approach.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know how much
really
truth there is
like
to
it.
that, but that's just something that I've heard.
But it's weird too, because like right now, for me, Blizzard's in this position where, especially after what happened last year with all the alligator, or was it last year or 2020? I can't remember.
It was recently, so within the last 10 months, a year.
Yeah. So all the stuff with like Activision, Blizzard coming out, and like just that shitstorm just kept going and going. And
Nonstop.
I mean, like the initial allegations came out, and then all that stuff with Bobby Kotick,
Mm-hmm.
and by all that stuff, I mean the 3 separate like big drama things that happened with him or whatever, where
And
he was
then-
like, "I'm gonna like kill you" to his assistant or something.
And then
like,
Microsoft
that was,
buying
like,
them.
That whole crazy thing.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Billionaires are insane. But
It's
like,
eccentric.
so he's he's good old Bobby. He's doing his thing, and then all the sexual harassment allegations and stuff. So it was like I was already at a point and have been at a point with Blizzard where I'm like, I find the company just very frustrating and annoying as like a player of their games.
For
Like,
sure.
they don't take our like, or like a lot of times it doesn't feel they don't it doesn't feel like they take our feedback in at all. Like Blizzard has a long history of like digging themselves into a hole and then spinning the entire expansion, filling the hole, and then at the start of the next expansion, digging the same hole basically, and then just filling it up and filling it up. Like they just have this bad habit of making these stupid changes that actually make things worse.
But I maybe it's just the power of the IPs that people just really like it, and they're just like, well, it's you gotta support the developers, right?
Well, sure. I mean, it's like I don't mind supporting developers.
Yeah,
They work
same
hard,
here.
But if your development team is going to be like, hey, we don't have to take in your feedback at all, then it's like, well, what do you expect me to do, man? Like, I'm not going to like send death threats to anybody, but I'm just
course
not.
not.
I'm just not going to play. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Y-
I don't find the game fun, and like part of it's just me being a jaded old player. Like I understand. Like I've been playing forever, so it's like
Yeah.
I have a certain perspective on things, but
No,
I've tried to be
you're allowed.
I've tried to be fair to the retail team for a long time because I still think retail World of Warcraft overall is like a better gameplay experience than classic WoW is. Like
So retail WoW will be from win to win.
retail is just the community just uses that to refer to like current subscription World of Warcraft like current content,
Okay.
like what's coming out right now. So like
Okay.
Shadowlands right now is considered retail World of Warcraft. Then you've
Okay.
got classic. So which are both paid for with one subscription. Like if you pay a subscription to World of Warcraft, you get access to classic WoW.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought you had to pay like each or per subscription or something like that.
Nope. You pay $15 a month and you can play TBC Classic, regular like vanilla Classic era, which is Season of Mastery, I think is the name, and then yeah, retail World of Warcraft Shadowlands currently,
Okay.
which will become Dragonflight. But yeah, I guess my point on the whole thing is that Blizzard's in a position right now where they're following the pattern currently, which is that we're getting late into Shadowlands now. We're in the final patch of Shadowlands, or that's coming out in like 3 weeks, I think. Which this patch isn't adding a new raid or anything. Instead, they've basically told the community like, hey, we're gonna work on. Okay, well, actually, it's actually an improvement over the pattern, if I got to be honest. Because here's what happens, right?
Tell me.
The general pattern is expansion comes out. Expansion has a bunch of systemic issues that like don't make any sense. And the first patch like kind of sucks because of that. Like usually they have a good raid or something that kind of makes up for it, and the class design and balance is like all out of whack.
It's kind of like they overcorrect or something.
Not necessarily. Well, okay, they do that, but not necessarily in this situation. Because what basically happens is that modern Blizzard. Sorry, someone's like doing some shit outside my house.
You want to take a pause?
No. It's my next door neighbors. They
Okay.
just like to
Be dicks.
make noise. Yeah.
Yeah, same here, dude. It was freaking Monday night, 4th of July, and like they were popping fireworks. I'm like, dude, I know it's 4th of July. Celebrate your country. I get it. But it's like 11 o'clock on a Monday night. Like, you should have done it like Sunday night or Saturday night. Like, why now?
Dude. No, yeah, we had it like Like 4 days in a row, just like people popping.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love 4th of July. I'm glad I'm in this country. I wouldn't be anywhere else. But it's like, come on, guys, it's Monday night. We got to go back to work on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Anyways.
It's like oh man, what was I talking about?
We're talking about overcorrecting and then the cycle when an expansion comes out.
Yeah. So, yeah, Blizzard does have a tendency to overcorrect on stuff, but not this situation. It's more like Blizzard just really likes to make really complicated systems that don't need to be complicated. You know, like okay, in classic World of Warcraft, right? Like just for an example,
Tell me.
Say you have a spell like Fireball. Okay, you cast Fireball, and you know, you read the tooltip, and the tooltip says you throw a fireball and it does 90 fire damage, right? And that 90 fire damage is then boosted by your like intellect, your spell power, and your spell crit. And then like maybe if you have a trinket or something that boosts fire damage, it might get boosted by that. So it's like 4 calculations that the game has to make when the damage hits to determine how much damage you did to a target, right? In modern retail World of Warcraft, you're going to have like, I'll just use the current expansion as an example. Say I'm playing a fire mage, okay, and I cast Fireball. You read Fireball's tooltip and it's like, you cast a fireball. The fireball has a high chance to crit. If it doesn't crit within like 3 casts, then it has a almost guaranteed crit. Basically, the crit chance goes up each time you don't crit on the target. Then it tells you the base damage of the ability, which doesn't matter at all because it goes. Basically, you're going to cast this thing. It's going to look at your character. It'll take your intellect, and it'll take your haste, your combined haste, mastery, versatility, and critical strike. They'll take all those stats, and that factors into, you know, if you're going to crit or not, or like how much extra damage you're going to deal, depending on what your mastery does. That's like a whole other mechanic. So there's your base stats, and then you got like your soul binds from your covenant. So your covenant ability might be boosting you. You might have like 3 or 4 buffs that come from your soul binds, which is like a whole separate talent tree, basically. And then you have like your talents that you selected. So those are going to boost Fireball possibly. Then you got like, you know, 2 trinkets that have like crazy complicated equations going on underneath them. So, you know, just imagine you're playing classic WoW and you try to throw an attack, you're rolling like 4d6. And that's like, then you have to add those up. In like modern World of Warcraft, you're throwing like 20 d6s and then you have to count them all up before you get the damage. So that like adds that level of complexity that gets added to this game makes the game feel more sluggish sometimes. It makes it impossible for you to like really know whether something's going to be an upgrade for you. So what people do now is they literally go to a website called Raidbots and they use an add-on to pull like a bunch of information on their character into a string. They copy that string and they paste it into Raidbots. Raidbots runs like simulated combat with your character. Somebody built this, by the way. Like somebody built an entire like simulator of World of Warcraft's combat systems. And that takes into account every trinket currently in the game, every like class, every talent setup, all of that stuff. And it runs your character under the calculation of like a single target and multi-target fight like 1,000 times. And then it calculates the best piece of gear. So that'll tell you, and then you can copy those stat weights that it outputs. So to tell basically the stat weights that tells you which stats are going to give you the biggest boost right now on your gear. So it'll tell you your stat weights. You can copy those stat weights into another add-on in game. Bro. Copy the string, and trust me, this is way easier than trying to figure this out on your own. Like,
I bet.
Yeah. So it does these calculations. You paste the stat weights into the game, and then when you mouse your tooltip over an item, it'll tell you like, oh, this is roughly going to be like a 9% damage increase for you.
You know, I would just go to Elitist Jerks back in the day and be like, what trinkets should I have? And best in slot.
Did you know that the guy who is the lead WoW team, like lead of the WoW team, Ian Hezekosis, that guy used to be on Elitist Jerks. He's like one of the dudes who founded that website.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, he used to be a lawyer. You can tell. He doesn't really have a soul behind him.
No, they're soulless monsters crunching numbers just to get the best possible outcome.
Yeah, man. It's rough.
Sounds about right.
Also, he plays Resto Shaman. Who does that?
You know, I always wanted to play Resto Shaman, but I played either Healadin or
Resto Druid.
Resto Druid. And Resto Druid, like, honestly, is like pretty freaking fun. You're just throwing out hots everywhere and just bouncing around. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of memeing because Retro Shaman's pretty cool, but yeah, I mean, definitely not my favorite healer. But
Chain heals. I know. I
so
remember
yeah,
that.
I mean,
Chain heals.
my point is basically like modern World of Warcraft is really complicated and it doesn't really need to be, and that's like the hole that Blizzard has dug themselves into over the past few years. So if we're talking the cycle of WoW, expansion comes out, balances all out of whack because the game's so complicated at a base level. There's no way that Blizzard could ever like, you know, possibly like really balance things properly because they have so many tuning knobs that they have to like be careful of. And you know, if they turn one thing up here, they might like fuck something
Disrupt
up over
something
here,
somewhere
and then
else,
this
right?
class does like 500,000 more damage for no reason. You
But
know, like
there's some merit to when you see the like description numbers when a expansion comes out, like they really spike, and then it might hold it for like a month or two, maybe three, half a year, and then you start seeing that just decline.
yeah,
I mean, there's
it's
something there. I mean, obviously they have fans that love the game and are still there. It's a big time MMO. Maybe not as big as what Final Fantasy 14 is now. I mean, you played 14, right?
yeah, yeah. I've played the entire MSQ.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know how it stacks compared to, because if you ask me, the big ones are Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. I'm sure there's other ones there along the way. Maybe the Elden Ring, not Elden Ring. I'm sorry, the Elder Scroll ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else is there? Guild Wars. Maybe some other ones. I don't know, but for sure, those two are the big ones. Those are the big boys.
Yeah, I would say yeah. It's like well, the kings right now are definitely like WoW and Final Fantasy. I think
Yeah.
like the tier under that would be like ESO. Probably Guild Wars is in there. Um, I feel like you could put like Destiny in there too, because like I don't really care what people say. Destiny's an MMO. It is. Um, it's got weekly things that you do every week.
It
And then
is,
like a
right?
raid or like a bunch of raids.
It
And
is.
it's a fucking MMO. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Who would say? Who
so
would say it
yeah, I don't
isn't?
know. It's just you know the WoW cycle, right?
The WoW
It's
cycle. We know it.
they release an expansion, and it's kind of bad in a lot of ways, but it's still a WoW
But
expansion,
it's
so it's like pretty
new. It's
fun.
different.
The initial story is like always cool, and like seeing the zones
The
and stuff.
cinematics. Yeah, seeing the new zones. That was always fun. Trying new areas, especially like after Cataclysm, how it changed the whole world and exploring new areas.
Mm-hmm. Then they usually release the first content patch, and it kind of like fixes a few like really easy to fix things that they just you know the community's kind of bitching about. But you know they'll always have this like they'll always have like three or four like main arguments with the community at like every expansion where like the community will play like the beta for the expansion and they'll be like, hey, this thing that you're doing right here, it sucks. Can you like not do that? And then Blizzard's like, no, we promise
We're
it's
gonna
going to
work
be
on it.
really balanced and work super well whenever the expansion comes out. And we're like, I don't believe you. And then they release
I
the
don't believe
expansion
you.
and it's terrible and not balanced at all. And it was completely their fault and they could have fixed it if they just listened to us. So then the first patch comes out, the first content patch, and they release another new raid. And by this time, this is where the player numbers get really bad because they usually will release this raid and then like the patch, and they'll barely fix like they'll either barely fix or they won't fix at all like the big annoying things that people have been complaining about.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll usually do like either a band-aid fix on something if it's like really terrible, so they'll just make it like passable. And I keep on wanting to go into specific examples, but I'm going to waste a lot of time if I do that. But
Okay.
basically, like,
We'll just kind of glaze over it.
yeah, they'll just release this like, you know, stupid like just band-aid fixes, right? And then people will start quitting the game. Then the third content patch usually comes out, and they're like, okay, this is going to be the end of the story for the expansion, and we're going to fix. You guys were right, okay? It turns out we can't fix this, so we're just going to like do what you wanted from the start. But by now it's the final content patch, so people will come back to play the patch. But they're not there to stick around for like all the grinds that they missed since the beginning of the expansion that everybody else who kept playing like did over time. You know, so they come back and they're like, "Oh, now I'm overwhelmed and everybody's so far ahead of me that like I can't get into groups or anything because all the groups are based around like choosing people from a list and you know, you sign up for the group and all they see is your spec and your item level. They can't tell like how good you are at the game
For
or like
sure.
how valuable you are as a player.
How
Like
much
you know, you're
knowledge you
just
have,
some number on a
experience.
screen, you know.
Yeah.
And so like these people can't get into groups unless groups are like being particularly nice or they just happen to get lucky, and it's just a really like frustrating experience. So what most people who aren't insane will do is they'll join a guild if they actually want to play, because then you can have a group of friends that will bring you along for dumb shit that no one else would want to do for you.
They carry your alts or take you with their alt runs.
Exactly. So that's basically like the cycle of World of Warcraft right now. Is like you get into the final patch, they finally fix all this stuff, but then you're either playing catch up. Like that's what I'm doing right now. Like I've been playing
Yeah.
retail lately. I'm playing catch up on a bunch of stuff I missed throughout Shadowlands
So how do you
because I haven't played
so how
since
do
the
you
first
balance
patch.
how do you balance current WoW and then because you play 14, right? Or is it kind of
Yeah.
a more
So 14
casual
for me is more of a
social
this
thing?
is what, and this is what I was going to tell you
Tell
earlier. Is
me.
like 14 for me has basically been a single player game. I mean, I treated it mostly as like just a JRPG that I was playing
Hmm.
with MMO combat, because like traditionally, like I've played a lot of JRPGs in my time, but I've really fallen out of love with like the ATB style like RPGs, like, or I mean JRPGs. Like
Yeah.
like I can't really play the old Final Fantasy games anymore. Like they just don't really interest
How
me
old
at
are we
all as
talking
far as
about?
like gameplay. I love the story, but not really interested in the gameplay at all. So when it comes to I think 14 was such an easy playthrough for me because like I like MMO combat, and it's like your standard tab targeting MMO combat. I love that shit. So I was like, yeah, I can play through this game.
Okay.
So like 600 hours later, I'm like, I've beaten all of the MSQ on my character. I've done a bunch of side content, but that's the thing about like Final Fantasy is that it is a very social game. Don't get me wrong. Like the community is great. Most of the people I run into in dungeons are like super nice.
Really?
And it's such a different experience from World of Warcraft. Let me tell you, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'll take your
Um,
word for it.
and I think my main observation on that is mostly just that it's because Final Fantasy is just not as competitive of a game as WoW is. Like World of Warcraft at its very center is about faction conflict and like picking sides and being
I mean,
competitive
if you
and
think about it, it is right. You have the Horde and the Alliance. Before you start playing the game, like you have to pick a side. Like we do, like yeah, and then you hate the other guys. Like okay, why do we hate them? Just you don't like them. I'm like okay, who am I gonna
yep.
pick? And it just goes from there.
Well, and part of it too is just the modding style. Like Final Fantasy, dude, or game masters in Final Fantasy, like if you down like okay, Final Fantasy doesn't allow DPS meters. I don't know if you knew that, but Final Fantasy doesn't allow you to use like it's in their terms of service that you can't have add-ons in the game. Now they're not going to like actually they don't run anything on your computer to detect if you are. Like it's more of a don't talk about it in game and you won't get in trouble kind of situation.
Hmm.
Like you can run add-ons in Final Fantasy, and there's a huge community out there for them. You can even like mod some game files to like make your character look like an anime bimbo if you wanted to.
Hot.
But like, as long as you're not like streaming it and you're not like talking about it in game chats, like you're
Don't be
fine.
blatant about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you are running a DPS meter and you like are in a dungeon and like you have this like red mage that's running behind and he's just like I don't know auto attacking stuff instead of casting any spells and he just sucks. Like if you call him out in the dungeon and you're like, bro, like your damage is super low. I can see all my meters here. The game masters will fucking ban you, bro. Like they will be like you're being toxic to other players and in any way, and they'll freaking ban you. Whereas in World of Warcraft, like if you try to call a GM like to tell you that some guy was mean to you in a dungeon, they're gonna be like, okay, why are you wasting my time? Like,
You know,
you know what I mean?
that's
And it's that kind of thing where expecting your players to like be nice to each other and enforcing that. I mean, it makes the game a more enjoyable experience socially. It just really does.
and
Like,
thinking about it, it's almost feels like Blizzard would be more about the hey, if you're toxic, we're gonna get you out of here. Just because the kind of the image to try to hold, I figured they'd be more of hey, you're not being nice, you're being toxic, we're gonna get you out of here.
well, see, that's funny because like basically in the older days when Blizzard was a smaller company, they had like real GMs, like humans that did that job and they had like this whole system where like most like if you talk to a game master in the game and they had to actually show up in the game, it was like this epic moment, bro. Like, did you ever see a game master in Classic World of Warcraft like way back in
I
the
never,
day?
but I've heard stories about it.
Yeah, like they could show up as like a Nixia or something and just like be like, "Yep, I'm a character in the game that's talking to you. I'm literally God," and you're just like, "Wow, this is crazy. That's super cool." And nowadays, game masters are just like people that chat with you through a web application that you can hook into the game's chat
Remote
function,
chat.
and they control everything with
Hi,
like a
I'm Chad.
control
I'm here to
panel
help
and
you. What's going
buttons on a
on?
web interface or something. I don't fucking know, but
I hear you having an
you know,
issue.
so for one, there's less GMs. The support team in general in World of Warcraft is just super understaffed because it's a big company. So of course they don't pay for stuff like that. They only pay for stuff that increases profits, and that does not. So, the support experience in World of Warcraft is terrible. So that's part of it. Part of it's just like straight up negligence. And the other part of it's that like since World of Warcraft went on a bigger focus on like cross realm functionality, like being able to party with people cross realm, you know, basically since the Dungeon Finder tool has existed, since like Wrath of the Lich King, you've been able to connect with people on other realms. So that kind of destroyed the entire idea of like realms being these worlds that were like a tight knit group of people, right? This is something that people love about Classic WoW. This is part of the reason why a lot of people wanted to go back to Classic WoW and why they asked for Blizzard to release it, was because in Classic World of Warcraft, your realm only has a finite number of people on it.
And
If
your
you get a bad reputation for yourself,
yeah,
like,
your
people
servers
won't
were
invite you
more.
to groups. But if you get a good reputation for yourself, people want you around. People try to steal you from other guilds. Like people do crazy shit.
Yeah, it was a more community because you were just locked into the people on your server. Regardless of how big or small it was, you had to get along with these folks on your server.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like we were talking about the other day, or like yesterday, I think, with how the world in Classic World of Warcraft is so oppressive as far as like it takes a lot longer to level through it, right? Like it's an adventure. You're spending like hours and hours in each zone just because
Just grinding it out.
You're doing a lot of running and traveling from place to place. You're doing a lot of like.
Oh, do you remember when you start a new character and you don't have your mount to like level like 20 or 40? It was, I think.
Oh, dude, yeah. In like original vanilla, you didn't get your slow 60% speed mount until level 40, which is just crazy.
You have to walk everywhere from Tearsful Glades to Arathi Highlands to Arathi Highlands, walking all the way, going to Hammerfell.
Yeah, dude. Like me and my brother have been playing Classic recently, just leveling characters to prepare for Wrath coming out, and I think we were like, I want to say we were like 150 hours gameplay, like game time in before we got our mounts. And that's at level 30, like in TBC.
Dude, and I always rock the Raptor mount. That was my favorite, especially when you do PvPs and you get the Black War Raptor mount or the Black Kodo or the Black anything. I was just like, yeah, I like the Black War Raptor.
See, I'm an orc, so I got them dopey looking wolves.
The wolves.
Yeah, with the stupid head bob, but yeah.
I played Undead, and I had the Raptor because I just think of like Jurassic Park, clever girl.
Velociraptor. So
yeah,
that's it's World of Warcraft, man.
It's World of Warcraft.
So I guess your original question about whether you should play in Dragonflight is like,
maybe
I don't have a lot of faith in Blizzard at all. I would say, in fact, I wouldn't say I have any. But
if I do have,
it would be nice to be pleasantly surprised.
You're right, and that's what I'm kind of hoping with Diablo 4. I do want to play that game, but at the same point, at the same backside of that coin, I don't like what they've been doing over the last couple of years. And I'm kind of the person that if I'm going to hurt them, hit them at the wallet. So I don't want to play Diablo 4, but I do want to play Diablo 4. And I'm just kind of like, where do I draw the line? Do I just be like, well, I should help out the developers. I should play the game, or just stick to my guns and be like, look, dude, I don't like what they're doing until I see them change the ship or tighten up their ship. Then maybe I could support them. I just don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, especially with Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I guess, like so far, all the stuff we've seen on Dragonflight has been really good. Okay, I'll give them that. Like, they're bringing back talent trees.
Oh, nice.
Which, like, I should explain. This is the first time that they've decided to like change a base system in World of Warcraft, like talents or like anything like that, in a long time, and like since before Legion.
Because that's when did they get rid of talent trees?
Miss Pandaria.
Was it? Okay. Because I remember playing, and they're like, and I remember my friends telling me, yeah, right, they're getting rid of talent trees. I'm like, what? Like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to do about that information because I wasn't playing, but I'm just like, they're getting rid of talent trees. And I could probably see the argument because, I would play a rogue, and at the higher end levels, like you want to be a combat rogue with like 5 points in subtlety, a couple of points in assassination, and the rest into whatever this. You have to go down this branch, this branch, this branch, get 4 points here, and then go here, 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 and here, and that's what you had to do. So making these other talents completely obsolete if you wanted to be in the higher end, damage dealing class. So when they get rid of this other stuff, it kind of makes sense. Nobody uses it, but at the same time, if you just get rid of it, then if somebody wants to be creative and try something different, you can't do that anymore.
I mean, I kind of disagreed for a long time. Like I always felt like the old talent system was like, because okay,
Tell me.
like in the wide sweeping opinion in the WoW community, at least I feel like this is the opinion I've heard most people have, is that the old talent trees were just better in every way, and I don't really agree. Like I always felt like the new version was it definitely had some advantages to it. It was a lot simpler, which isn't really an advantage or a disadvantage in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely created this era of WoW that I really liked.
Okay.
So I guess but lately my opinions on it have kind of changed, because especially with the way that Blizzard has released, they announced that they're going to be doing these new talent trees in Dragonflight and like redoing the talent system for the first time in like over 10 years.
It's been that long.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me preface this.
Pandaria came out in 2013. So
okay, and let me preface this. You're right, Jackel. When they got rid of the talent trees, I wasn't playing, so I never got to see the new stuff. So I kind of talking out of my ass here. This is just what I thought when they were removing the talent trees. So I never got to see what the new stuff was. So I don't know firsthand whether it's good, bad, even, or whatever. So yeah.
Well, basically, a short explanation would be the talents got turned from like trees that you like know and are familiar with into it'd be a grid of abilities. With columns and rows. Each row is unlocked at like a certain level. They're usually 15 level intervals. Or I guess back in the day it would have been 10 level intervals, but this is before they squished the max level back down to 6.
Yeah, 'cause I remember the power levels was creeping up, and they kind of brought it back down.
Yeah, so you would get a talent essentially every 10 levels or so, and then you could select from one of 3 talents in that row. And yeah, that's how it worked essentially, is that you just had like a big array of talents and you would select one on each row. And yeah, and they would usually be like either like a passive effect that would change how your rotation works, or it would be like a big like utility spell or ability, like a stun or something like that. And they would try to group even like similar things between rows. So like usually the final talent row, for instance, would be like a choice between 3 things that are like big, like thematic abilities. Like I guess a good example would be like currently I play Windwalker in World of Warcraft, which is like the monk melee spec, melee DPS. And their final talent row has like an ability that replaces your main DPS cooldown with a different one. There's an ability called Rolling Dragon Punch where you like have to use 2 other abilities and put them on cooldown before you can cast it, but it like hits it does like an AoE spell around you, and your character like jumps in the air and does an uppercut, and it's fucking cool. And then the other spell, I don't remember it because it sucks and no one ever takes it. But,
okay, well now we know.
So it's like they try to keep like similarly themed things on the talent rows. So the way they're redoing the talent trees in Dragonflight is they're basically combining the old system with a new system. Each class will have like 2 talent trees essentially. You'll have a base talent tree for your class, so like every rogue will have like the same like base rogue talent tree, and then you'll have a separate talent tree that you'll get points for. That's for your spec. So you'll have your rogue tree and you'll have your like subtlety tree, for instance. So you still can't do like hybrid builds like you used to be able to do. Like like you could take some points in subtlety and then take some points in combat.
Yeah.
You can't, at least as far as I know, I don't think you'll be able to do that. But you're still. So it's the new talent trees are essentially like you've got some more like granular control over your build, because there's more points than there would be in this like grid talent setup that I just told you about, like the modern style of WoW talents. So you've got way more like control over it than that, because you're still able to add like small bonuses here and there, little passives and stuff from what I've read. And I can DM you like some of the mock-ups they've made, because they've been posting them on their forums.
Yeah, send me that. Give me water. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. So you're excited to see these new changes? I mean, as a player.
Yeah, I mean, so far, like, like here's an actual like talent calculator that WoW had made for the rogue tree, for instance.
Okay. Oh, hold on.
But yeah, like the changes that I've seen, like I have small gripes with some of the talent placements and stuff, but I mean, this is literally like early concept. They don't even have like an alpha for Dragonflight yet, as far as I know. So these are all just like very, very early conceptual ideas. But the base idea that they have here, I really like a lot because the main problem with the old talent system, like the old trees, was just that like you had to take a lot of travel nodes that didn't really like add a lot of benefit to you, or they didn't really do a bunch of stuff that you would like for the class. It wasn't super optimal. But then I didn't like a main problem with the new talent system is that there's not a lot of flexibility and not a lot of creativity. It's very like
Cookie cutter, kind
like
of.
yeah, like there's cookie cutter builds on the old talent trees for sure, but
Yeah.
like
Follow the
dude,
formula.
the way the new talent trees work, I mean, literally, it's like everybody runs the same talents all the time, no matter what class you're playing, because it's just that simplified, right? So with these types of talent trees, you kind of have both. Like, for instance, like if you're looking at this rogue tree, it has three options at the top for the listeners. It has three options at the top that are like really long time rogue abilities. You got Sap, you got Blind, and you got Garrote. So these three abilities, depending on the spec that you're playing, you'll actually start at a different point in the tree. So like if you're playing, I think if you're playing Outlaw, which is a spec that replaced combat, it's basically just combat but pirates. So if you're playing Outlaw, for instance, you'll start with Blind. You'll have Blind selected, but you can still pick if you want to have Sap or Garrote.
Oh,
And then, if you take Sap, you can have Cloak of Shadows, which is just a no-brainer, honestly, with that placement. That's kind of dumb because, like, everybody will want Cloak of Shadows, like one of the most strong rogue abilities
Oh,
ever.
dude, looking at these little emblems are taking me back.
And then, and I believe that some of these abilities are, like, baseline between all rogue specs. I'm not exactly sure how it works. But, yeah, so you have two talent trees, right, per character. You'll have your base class talent tree that you put points into, and then you'll have your spec talent tree that you put points into, and I just think that's really cool. Like a lot of the placement of the abilities needs to be like sort of fine-tuned. Obviously it's super early concepts, but this is way more interesting and way more build enabling and like just super cool compared to like the current system. And that makes me excited on its own because like for me, classes never get new spells anymore. They never get like stuff like that. And like I would say one of the biggest things that's sad about modern WoW is that there's no sense of progression from expansion to expansion because they've been so like obsessed with these borrowed power systems where they like start the expansion off being like, here's this ultimate weapon, and then you like spend the whole expansion like upgrading the ultimate weapon. Like I was playing Enhancement Shaman and Legion, and we had the Doom Hammer, like straight up just Thrall's hammer, dude. Like it's fucking sick. It was awesome. It was like super flavorful. It's the most well-known shaman weapon of all time. It's so cool. So you have the actual Doom Hammer on your character. Spend the whole expansion like upgrading that bitch. I ran Mob Souls 500 times for a stupid 3% damage increase, just to upgrade my stupid weapon, right? And then at the end of the expansion, they were like, oh no, the main bad guy stabbed a giant sword, and now you have to drain all your weapon's power to heal the world or something. And so then the next expansion, they're like, wow, now you suck again. You know what I mean? And that's literally how it's been every expansion since Mists of Pandaria came out, pretty much.
Oh,
And so there's just no sense of progression between expansions because your character keeps on like making progress and then getting reset
and then
back
you're
to
back,
like
back to scrub, back to
back to square
yeah.
one. Essentially, it's like I hit level cap like 10 years ago, and I haven't really like progressed since then at all on my character, which feels bad.
Dragonflight
So
hasn't came out. Like usually by now you got more information on like a PTR or some betas or more information. Usually by now, or no?
I mean, they've been putting out like a lot of info lately. Blizzard's been focusing on like for Dragonflight, they've been focusing on the talent trees because that's like the big feature I think most people are interested in. And it also what's weird, dude, is that like some classes, like Monk and Demon Hunter, have never existed in a World of Warcraft where the talent trees existed. So they're going to
You're
be
right.
new to this system, which is kind of interesting to me.
And you know, when I first
Um,
heard about legions and they're gonna introduce demon hunters, I'm like, and mind you, I was playing like Diablo 3. I'm like, demon hunters, huh? That sounds like an awesome class. I'm in. And then my friends are like, it's not the kind of demon hunter you think it is. I'm like, oh,
well, no,
uh,
it's not like bows and
that's what I was
crossbows and
thinking. That's what I
stuff.
was
It's
thinking,
like
like Diablo 3
it's
demon hunter.
It's WoW demon hunters like Illidan. You got glaives, you got demon powers.
Yeah.
You shoot big chaos beams out of your eyes.
I was,
It's
I was
it's great.
disappointed.
It's super
It was
great.
great.
I love Demon Hunter. It's a very simplistic class. Well, the DPS spec Demon Hunter only has two specs. It's got a tank and a DPS spec.
Oh, okay.
And both of them are very fun. Like the gameplay is super
Are they?
great. They just tend to be in like weird balancing positions all the time because,
They're strong, they're weak. They're strong, they're weak, or what?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Demon Hunters tend to be like really powerful at the start of an expansion and then kind of get scaled out. That's been their pattern so far in World of Warcraft.
That's,
This is their third expansion being around Shadowlands, so
okay.
we'll see. So yeah, that's been kind of Blizzard's main focus is the talent trees for sure, because I think that's what most long-term players are most interested in. There's like a couple of other things in Dragonflight they've talked about. Like they're basically ripping off Guild Wars 2's mount system, from what it seems. Like
What do you mean?
you're gonna have like an actual Drake instead of unlocking flying in the Dragon Isles, at least at the start, like regular flying, like with a flying mount. You'll have like a Drake that you like ride, and you have to like manually flap its wings and shit. I guess I don't know exactly how it works, but it's supposed to be like a more interactive mount system, which I don't know. In my opinion, could be cool or it could be like kind of trash.
Just
We'll have to see. Let's just see how they actually pull that
more
off. But
convoluted stuff. So what's
oh,
going
and
on?
Blizzard also announced that they expanded the WoW team's size by like a lot.
I saw
So
that. I actually got that news from the OS Option Select podcast. I saw Kevin and Ruben talking about how they acquired a proletariat. Was they
yes, yeah,
team that did
yeah. I
Spellbinder?
don't think it's actually going to have a noticeable effect on the game until like a year down the line. That would be my guess, because it's just the kind of thing where like, they're going to have to integrate the company, and we're not actually going to see the gains of that until much later on in the development cycles. But
I saw somebody talk about how maybe they're gonna bring in that team to help WoW be like, so you could play it like on controller to make it more action like and not so much on mouse and keyboard. I'm like, interesting.
yeah, possibly. Well, and it's funny because there's an add-on that this guy developed. It's been around for years now called Console Port, and it's literally a full rework of the Blizzard UI for like controller support, and
I
it's
think that's the one I
really
saw.
good. Like it's really really well done. It even works on classic WoW.
Really? Have you tried
And
it out?
yeah. Like I used to raid with a guy in a heroic guild who like
Play on
was
controller?
he was like pretty good at the game, and he played fully on controller. It was really cool.
That sounds like fun.
And I believe console port actually has like support because you run it through like an X input reader, so it has full support with like disability controllers and stuff for like people who don't have like certain limbs or don't have a lot of functionality in their
Kind of like that
hands and things like
Xbox
that.
adaptive controller, that big old, looks like a
Yeah.
big joystick.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically it's the kind of thing where like Blizzard's like way behind the ball on this, and they kind of have just let the add-on community like carry them, just like every AAA company does that has modding. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean it'd be cool to see Blizzard do that, but yeah, I just want to see, like, I guess my final note is that I'm slightly optimistic for WoW's future just based on what they've done so far. They seem to be trying to garner some goodwill with us. I just hope they don't pull another Legion situation where they like build up all this goodwill and make a great expansion like Legion, and then the very next expansion they like just start ruining it again with like dumb patterns that they've always done,
Well, that's
And so yeah, I mean we'll see. I mean I know this was supposed to be
no.
an Elden Ring conversation.
This conversation will be anything. We could make this conversation as long as we want, or we could do another one later, or it doesn't matter. I do want to keep staying on the Blizzard subject though. So
Sure.
I know you said so you have history with WoW. What
Yeah.
about when it comes to the other IPs like Overwatch and Diablo?
Sure. Okay. Well, Overwatch. I'll start with that because
Yeah.
it's gonna be a shorter conversation. But
Okay.
I played Overwatch like the year it came out. I want to say it was like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there.
I
I can't
need
remember exactly, but like I got into like one of the early beta versions where like Bastion still had a shield, and like the only map was like King's Row. You know,
Because
it was really fun. And then like full release came out, and I played a little bit on full release, and then I took a break, and then I came back in season 2, and I started grinding ranked with like some friends of mine who were in my WoW guild at the time. Funnily enough, it was when I was like raiding super hardcore as well.
yeah,
So like we would basically finish raid, and then we would go play Overwatch to like detox. But like by
just
detox, I mean we were
detox.
playing comp, so like it
Dude,
wasn't actually.
retox.
You know, we were just saying gamer things to people
Okay,
all the time.
because
So yeah, very
originally,
cool.
originally Overwatch was supposed to be something that the Activision Blizz, the WoW team was working on. It was supposed to be something else, like an expansion or something, some sort of add-on to WoW.
Titan. So I don't know if that was ever
And then-
confirmed 100%. It
yeah.
might have been. I can't remember. But yeah, originally Blizzard was working on another MMO called Titan. That was
Yeah.
like their code name for it. And oh yeah, it was confirmed because I believe Jeff Kaplan, or one of the people at the top of the Overwatch team, basically said that like yeah, Overwatch was like sort of born out of the ashes of like a scrapped project from the past, and the only project that Blizzard had scrapped that people knew about was Titan, because Blizzard pretty much announced publicly that Titan was getting scrapped, and then Overwatch was announced like a year later or something.
But the thing is, Overwatch came out, and at the same time, wasn't Gearbox? Didn't they have a hero themed shooter came out at the same time, and Overwatch just happened to be the popular one?
Yeah, I think it
Battleborn,
was
yeah.
Battleborn.
Does anybody remember that? No. Yeah.
I mean, I remember
It existed
I
for a little
remember
bit.
Battleborn coming out with Overwatch, and no one touched it.
And that's what it
because
was.
they
It came out
thought
at
that
the-
their game could like overtake a Blizzard IP.
It came out at the wrong. It could have probably been the next big thing, but the power of Activision Blizzard with their IPs, that one just happened to be the one that stuck around, right?
Yeah, well, and this is still when Blizzard was considered like one of the golden boys.
For sure.
So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like near the end of that era, but they were definitely still like
Oh,
well
yeah.
respected at the time.
Yes, when you
And,
hear that name, Activision Blizzard, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a good game. I can't wait.
and it was a good game. Like, you know, don't get me wrong. Like,
sure.
I liked Overwatch on launch. My friends and I pushed to High Diamond in season 3. I was a tank main, and then that was the last time I played Overwatch. I got kind of burnt out on it, and I just never
Just
went
too
back
much,
to the game.
too much at first, or just what was it? How did you feel about the loot boxes? Because that's something that I never played a game that was high on the loot boxes, so I never got super exposure to it. But in the back of my mind, I've never felt like that's something that I wanted, nor did I ever been exposed to it. But I know for sure that loot boxes, I don't find the thrill. Maybe because when I was younger, I used to play a lot of Pokemon and a lot of Magic the Gathering, so I kind of know what it feels like to spend $3.99 on a booster pack, and then opening it up, and then oh great, I got this. I didn't, but like I'd always grab these cards, and I'd either have extra or make a deck or do something. So I don't know how you felt about with loot boxes in Overwatch. And was that some of your first experiences with microtransactions and loot boxes?
Well, at the time, like, I remember that being the era of microtransactions where companies hadn't quite figured out how to just like systematically monetize every like aspect of the human psyche. You know, they hadn't really like gotten to that point yet. So I think most of us weren't really completely jaded with microtransactions at the time. So I remember my thoughts in like 2016 on it being like, there were plenty of games at that point that had like loot box systems. It was a big point of contention in the gaming community at the time. And Blizzard's system for loot boxes was one of the like much less like predatory versions. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like, free of blame or anything.
For sure.
It's not like a great system at all. It's just it was a lot less bad than like certain other games. Like I think this was right around the same time that Call of Duty was like, we're gonna sell a crosshair for $3.99, and it was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
So yeah, I remember at the time it like wasn't a big deal, especially since there were like Blizzard then started adding like skins you could actually earn by like doing things in the game too. So it was kind of like I didn't have that huge of a deal with it. But nowadays, I mean,
how do you feel about the argument when they say, when people say, well, if it's just cosmetic only, I'm okay with it, and it's not pay to win? How do you feel about
see,
that? I think
that's how I
it's a
felt about
cop-out.
it for a long time. But nowadays, like the reality of the situation is like, let me use Destiny 2 as an example.
Tell me.
Or actually, you know what? I'll use WoW as an example because
Okay.
it's a Blizzard IP.
Oh, companions, mounts, you name it.
So well, yeah, we can talk about the WoW real money shop for instance. Like, okay, you look at like you can go on Google right now and look up
Hmm.
WoW 6 month sub mounts. This is a pattern that Blizzard's been doing for a while. But if you look up 6 month subscription mounts
Wait, you
and
get them. Wait,
look at
hold on,
like
hold
the
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
quality
on,
of
hold on,
these
hold on,
mounts,
hold
like
on.
look
Time
at
out.
the amount of
Time out, Jacko. Wait,
development time, and they create custom animation rigs for these mounts. Like they're freaking sick looking, right?
there's actually 6 month sub mounts.
Yeah, yeah, you can only get these mounts by subscribing for 6 months. It's literally an entire marketing scheme to keep people playing the game by giving them these mounts that they can only get through paying for
I
a
hope
six
you're
month
not seeing my
subscription.
camera
Yeah.
right now because I am.
So yeah, that's these mounts. Or you can look at the regular World of Warcraft like $30 store mounts, and they have their own like custom textures. Some of them change colors mid flight. Some of them do like crazy shit. And then you look at the like then you look at the here. I'll give you a good example. Shadowlands
Put it on the
dungeon
Discord.
mounts.
Put it on our Discord in our chat, or just message me. I don't know. I just want to see this. Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
I'm.
yeah, yeah. So
You're.
here's a mount.
It's pissing
So
me off, Jackal. I love you, but you're pissing me off.
here's a mount that you get in World of Warcraft for completing every dungeon this season with a plus 15 or higher, which is like pretty fucking hard to do. It's like pretty tough. That's what you get. You want to know what the mount for the season before that looked like?
Show me.
That's
So,
right. It looked like this.
hold on 1 second, Jackal. Hold on. So, listeners, I'm looking. You go to the video, and you can see some pictures. Yeah, maybe y'all know this already, but I'm seeing this for the first time. Okay, go ahead. Oh
Yeah,
my
so
god.
it looks like this. And then you want to know what the one for the season after that looked like? That's right. It looked like this. So it's like when Blizzard's like, oh yeah, these like crazy which for the listeners, all of these look the same. They're just texture reskins of the same mount.
Oh my
So like
god.
when Blizzard's like, oh yeah, we want you to put like 300 hours into this game to get all the plus 15 keys, and you're gonna get this shitty reskin mount from last season, or you can pay us like $80 for a 6 month subscription to get this custom really cool mount that we made that took some intern like two days. You know what I mean? It's just it sucks, man. Like it's so obvious. Like and
The
that's what my problem
the
is with people who are like,
the
oh, well, if
FOMO.
it's just cosmetics, because it's like cosmetics are a good reward, man. Like they're cool. You should use them in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to unlock cool cosmetics in the game from doing things in the game. All of your because that's what my problem is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time when you make microtransactions cosmetic only, that's the only place you can get good cosmetics, and it sucks. Like Destiny is the same way, bro. Like all the cool looking armor and stuff in Destiny, it costs real money. All right, man.
Yeah,
It
I
just
hear you.
does. Or you have to wait for like an 8 month rotation in the Bright Dust store. It's like it's just not feasible.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So when you hear this stuff, it's just cosmetic only. Fuck. Oh, jeebus. Yeah.
So and I get maybe it's not always that way.
Maybe it's not all the
But
way.
like even games that like other games that I love, like Path of Exile, same way, man. Like, Path of Exile, you can kind of argue that the game is kind of pay to win. In fact, I would actually say it is. Like, I kind of would actually take a hardline
Yeah.
stance because
I like that. Hardline
you can't
stances.
you can't buy any player power with real money in Path of Exile. But you can buy stash tabs. If
I, I,
you know anything about Path of Exile, I mean, you play Diablo, right? Like, it's a loot game.
oh yeah.
You need bank space, bro. You
You
need
need
lots of
slots.
bank
You need
space.
lots of
So
space and
like,
slots and everything. Yeah.
if you create an account in Path of Exile right now, you start with 6 stash tabs. And you can't trade either. You can't trade with other players unless you spend money on at least one premium tab. And trading is like
But we'll
you
preface
you
it.
need to trade to play the game.
But
Pretty much as a new
we'll
player.
preface it
So,
with the game is technically $0 to download. Correct.
exactly. Well, and you can do the vast majority of the game without spending any money on it for sure.
But
It would
you
be
spend.
nearly impossible, in
Yeah.
my opinion, to do it with just 6 stash tabs.
You know,
Like
and that's another thing I
you
want to
would
talk to you
be
about, Jackal, is that I like how these games say, oh, the game's free, or you could grind it out, but the process to grind it is a freaking, just a total freaking, just hours upon hours just to get something, or like I find that really underhand and sneaky when games say that, oh well, you don't have to buy everything, you could grind it out, you could use in-game currency, but to get that currency or to get that stuff done, it requires hours upon hours of just you sitting there focusing on their game only. And mind you, there are some people that could stick with one game and just love it and be happy playing it. There's just too many games out there to play. I don't know how anybody could just focus on just one.
Right.
Oof.
Well, then Path of Exile falls victim to the same stuff, man. Like here, I'm literally in the game right now. This is an image of my character wearing no microtransactions at all, and this is like a high level character. Okay, this character is wearing like really good gear.
You're okay if I share it on the screen, or you want me to keep that private?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, that character is wearing like really good gear right now, and that's what she looks like. So, and then if I put on like some microtransactions, like
let's see.
Yeah, we'll do this and this.
So guys, if you are just listening, Jackel is showing us some of his characters on Path of Exile.
And then if I put this on, this all costs money.
Holy shit! Okay, now that's dope. That's dope. There's a big difference.
So it's just it's just this whole weird thing that I've noticed, because that used to be my point of view on like cosmetic only microtransactions for a long time. It was just like, oh yeah, like it doesn't affect the game.
It's okay.
But it's like
just cosmetics.
To me, it's just used so often as like an excuse for
it is.
the dev team to not actually like put any cool rewards in the game itself.
Yeah, I 100%. I feel like it's just a lazy argument, and somebody says that when they're trying to defend it, like show me more. Like, come on, man, is that really gonna be your argument? It's cosmetics, so it's okay. It's not play to win. It's okay. Like, come on, man. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's go beyond just okay. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's like, my view on microtransactions tends to be that, like, in a perfect world where, like, there was a good balance between microtransactions for cosmetics in the game that were earnable and then ones that were microtransactions, right, that you paid real money for. There was, like, a good balance between them. Then, like, yeah, sure, I wouldn't mind. And, like, and if I felt the game company was, like, respecting me as a player and respecting my time, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll throw some money your way because I love this game. And I love the development team, and I want this game to continue to exist and be developed and get better and better, right? That's how I felt about PoE for a long time. Like Path of Exile.
Jackel,
the reason
you're
I
right.
spent so much money on that game is because I really like GGG and I like the game a lot, and the game's totally free to play pretty much. So it's like I don't really mind throwing some money their way.
For sure.
But for World of Warcraft, on the opposite end of the spectrum, like the reason that the real money shop in World of Warcraft feels so like disingenuous, I guess, is because you can see the amount of like work that's put into like the store mounts compared to like
when you just showed me those 3,
and it's like it kind of sucks, man. Like like we want cool stuff in the game too,
dude. And you're right. Look, guys who's listening, girls, guys, whatever. You're right. I'm not telling you what you should and not spend your money. No. Spend your money whatever you want. This is just how I feel about it. And you're right. If you feel like, hey, this is a really good game, this is a fun game, I really want to support it, and this is the best way I could do it, why not? Of course, it's your hard-earned cash. Spend it how you see fit. Me personally, when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, oh man, come on. Yeah. And
then especially after like all the allegations towards Activision-Blizzard employees and stuff, you gotta understand, man. Like right after that happened, like within like a few months, like a couple of months, they released the next 6-month subscription amount. They were like, hey,
still mad at us?
It's about that time. You wanna come pay up another 6 months?
You wanna re-up? You wanna re-up?
Like, can you like stop getting drunk and like harassing female employees first? Can you like do that?
Let's just be civil. Keep it professional. Let's make a great game with great content.
But whatever.
That's Overwatch.
It's that's my whole thing on that, I guess. So yeah,
No.
Overwatch.
That's
That was my experience with Overwatch.
What about Overwatch 2? Any hype for that? Does that say, hey, I'm coming back?
I have a buddy in my Destiny clan who's like super into Overwatch. I mean, he's better in the game than me. I think he's I think he's hit top 500 once.
Nice.
So he's like pretty good at the game. But he's like super into it, and he keeps on being like, bro, you should come back to Overwatch, man. You should come back. And I'm like, dude,
it's gonna be free, right? That's what they said.
Yeah. Well, it's like I told you yesterday, man. Like, I just don't care about like competitive like PvP games
Mm.
at all. Like, it's not. It's literally that aspect of it that I don't like.
Well,
I'm competitive in video games. Don't get me
sure.
wrong. Like, if you put me in an MMO and you're like, I want you to do more DPS than everybody else in this guild, I'll be like,
Say
bet, dude.
less.
Like, fuck these
Say
assholes.
less,
Like,
fam.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be the best, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know what it is. Like, you put me in like an arena shooter versus other players, that gets on my nerves. It's not
Mm.
really my. It's not my vibe, you know.
Yeah.
So
So what about when they're gonna announce eventually when it comes to the whole PVE? Are you more interested in that aspect of Overwatch 2?
I mean, I remember watching the initial trailer, and the way that
Mm-hmm.
they described it made it seem like it was going to kind of be like I don't know, like a man versus machine thing from Team Fortress 2 or something, where it's just
What?
like, I mean, I don't know, like if it's like a full AAA ass like story mode game, that would
Yeah.
be sick. But I don't think that's what it's going to be, right? Like, I'm pretty sure it's just like,
Do an objective as a team versus bots or something or what?
yeah, something like
Oh,
that.
that
Like,
seems
I
kind
mean,
of
I
like
just I don't,
that
I don't
seems kind of
care for it.
lazy. I don't think they would do that, right? They will
So,
probably have an actual
especially
objective, right?
especially since like, weren't they gonna like make that a separate purchase or something, or is that getting included for free as well?
I think that's being included for free. I think it's just something down the line, which is
Right.
weird because which was weird because they always said this is going to be the next game. It's going to be an another IP, but then they're like, yeah, it's just going to be an upgrade. Like, so why call it Overwatch 2? Just keep call it Overwatch, version 2.0 or something. Not like why is it called Overwatch 2? Just it's Overwatch, just the next expansion or something. I don't
Well,
know.
the funny thing is that
Tell
Path
me,
of Exile is literally doing the same thing.
are
They're
they?
coming out with a Path of Exile 2. It's literally just going to be an update for the game. Like, that's what it is. They made that very clear when they announced it. They were like,
Okay.
yeah, this is just going to be an update, but we're calling it PoE 2 because it's like basically an entire rework of like the game engine
Okay.
and like all
Well,
this
they
stuff.
were
And I'm
upfront
like,
about it.
okay, like that's fair then to call it that. It's just like weird in Overwatch's case because I don't think they're replacing the engine. I'm pretty sure they're just making some like slight updates graphically into the UI,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure the like in game universe story is like moving forward like a big time jump or something. Like, it's like moving forward 10 years or some shit like
Because
that.
yeah, that makes sense. When like the Path of Exile team saying, "Look, there's gonna be Path of Exile 2, but it's really just gonna be up." Okay, you're up front. You're telling me what's going on. Cool, got
Mm.
it. Yeah, don't be like AB and be like, give me a word salad and just tell me what it is, man. Just tell me what
Yeah.
this is. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
so yeah, Overwatch not really on my radar honestly. Like, I'm aware of its existence.
Yeah.
I have some buddies who are like way more pumped for it than
You know,
I
I
am, but
tried it
I'm not
before,
really
and
playing
I
it.
thought the idea was cool. I like it, but I'm the kind of the competitive person where I'm competitive like 1v1 when it comes to fighting games. Where if I
Mhm.
lose, it's because I screwed up. If I win, it's because I won. On like playing games like Overwatch 2, I mean like playing Overwatch or League of Legends or anything that's like team based, and you're doing really good, but you lose anyway because you got two randos just playing team deathmatch when it's supposed to be domination or something. It's like, oh, come on, dude, what I gotta do that for? Like, I don't like playing with. Now look, I've said this like a million times before. If I had like a dedicated team of four other players that could get on at the same time that I get on, whatever schedule that is, and we could always go in there and just wreck shop, now that would be great to have. But that's kind of difficult in this day and age as a adult with a full-time job and trying to balance all these other hobbies, like to find four other individuals to play the same thing and have the same objective. That's why I prefer playing fighting games because like I could get on when I want, do my online matches, and if I win, because of me. If I lose, because of me, and then I'm done playing, done. So that's always been my reason for like when it comes to one-on-one competition games. I just prefer, me to be me and play by myself. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, I get that. I think it's because I don't really get a lot of satisfaction from like outplaying somebody
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I tend to get it more from like figuring things out. Like if I'm playing, um, oh, I'm trying to think of like a good example. You know what? This actually kind of leads back into Souls games a little
Yeah.
bit because like part of the reason I love the Souls games so much is because it's you versus this world that they designed to like oppress you and like be against you in every way that it could possibly be.
100%.
And like the rules are always the same every time. Every time you respawn, the enemies are going to be in the same position. You know what you have to deal with, And there's other aspects to it, like the exploration and stuff. But like the rules are the same every time, right? Like, and that's not really the case in like a PvP game. I mean, like the balancing's there for a reason, obviously. Like the rules are the same in the sense that you're both playing the same video game.
For sure.
But like one person might be in a bad mood that day, or they might like be kind of sluggish or tired, or they might be like really having a fucking good day that day and just kick your ass. And like, I don't really care for like the whole feeling of just like being better than somebody else as much as the personal satisfaction of being like, I was the most efficient in that situation, or I figured that out on my own, or like I practiced enough that I was able to execute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and you can get those types of satisfaction. You can get that type of satisfaction from like doing competitive multiplayer and like 1v1ing people in fighting games and all sorts of stuff like that. But I think it's also the like man versus man aspect that I'm like, I'd rather play like a co-op game or something.
I never played much co-ops.
I spend my like my working days like competing with everybody. So like, I just want to get home and hang out with the boys.
Sometimes you're right. You're right. Sometimes you can, yeah. That's a good way of putting it, Jackel. You're right. Because sometimes you just want to hang out with your buddies. Me personally, I don't do much co-op, but what I do is like I have some of my Twitch buddies that are friends of mine, and I have friends of mine that just happen to be on Twitch. And that's kind of like my co-op. I'll just watch them play and I'll just chit chat and be like, cool, what are you doing? Tell me about your day. And then tell me about this game. So like, even though I'm not playing the game, I could just sit back and watch and be like, oh, I remember this stage, or do this, or try this, or what's going on. So that's how I co-op.
Well, and I think that's why MMOs are like my favorite genre. It's just because, like especially like, and I'll tell you this now. The reason why I've stuck with World of Warcraft for so long is because of the raids and the Mythic Plus system. Because especially the Mythic Plus system, which I don't think you've played since it came out in Legion.
No.
But it's basically like you have Mythic difficulty dungeons, and if you complete one, you get a keystone, and the keystone starts off at +2, and then it's if you complete the keystone, basically you put the keystone in a little device at the start of the dungeon. You bring 4 other people in there with you, a 5-man group for the dungeon, right? And then the keystone basically scales the monsters in the dungeon's health and damage up a little bit per level, and then adds like affixes, which are basically like modifiers to the
kind of like Diablo
to make it harder, essentially.
Yeah.
And these can scale up technically infinitely, although I don't think in the history of the Mythic Plus system anybody's ever done above like a 33 key or something, and that's for like people who are like insanely good at World of Warcraft, like. I mean, like that at that point, you're basically just like hoping for good RNG on like certain enemy spell casts and crap like that. Like no one can play to that level of detail in just like a casual session. But 15 is usually where like the mark is put as far as like challenge for the community.
Okay.
But it's just this really cool system because like basically it puts a timer on the dungeon, which some people don't like this aspect of it. Some people do. I personally enjoy it. It puts a timer on the dungeon.
The timer, yeah, you gotta put the timer on there.
Yeah, you have to like build strats and like worry about your comp, and like everybody has to like know how to interrupt certain attacks. And like especially when you start doing higher key levels, and like some stuff will just start one-shotting you, and you have to like use a defensive, or like you have to like know what's in the dungeon. You have to have really good game knowledge, and I love that aspect of it because it's that plus like the team aspect where everybody's like
in sync.
Yeah, like everybody has to like know what's happening, and we're like, okay,
know
we're
your
gonna
roles
move here, or like this mechanic's coming up, everybody be ready, like just stuff like that, or like a problem comes up, and then your class is specifically in a good way, like a good position to like help with that situation, so you can be like, I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna like res this guy in the middle of combat, or I'm gonna be the guy that can like AOE stun all these monsters so they don't like nuke the tank.
I'm gonna evasion tank.
So it's just I love that aspect of it. Like I love. If I had to describe my taste in video games, it would be I love doing hard stuff, and I love doing hard stuff with my friends. Like, like if we can complete like this crazy difficult thing together, then like I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing it.
And that was some of my highlights when it came to WoW, like defeating bosses that we had trouble with, or completing raids, or like just doing something difficult, like you said. So doing something difficult with your friends. I remember which one was it? I think they redid Blackrock depth or something, and you had to fight the automatons or something in there, and you had to kill them in a certain time. I believe, I don't know, it's been a long time, but I remember our little guild had difficulty with that, and when we finally killed it, the just how happy we were and excited and just cheering in Ventrilo about it, to me just stuck with me. Just killing bosses for the first time with your raid, especially just getting to know these people and playing with them, and then you're grinding against the wall and dying and losing and wiping, and then finally you beat them, and just that feeling, that's what I enjoyed the most when it came to like WoW when I played back in the day.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, okay. I actually have an old video of my WoW guild defeating a boss that we had been grinding for like a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, which one was it?
And it was last expansion, Mythic Opulence, like a big pile of gold monster, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see. I'll send you this clip. It's like maybe like 20 seconds long, but it's us like all screaming like at the boss because we were like so happy to finally beat it. And my buddy who was streaming actually recorded it. So
Let me see it.
so yeah, you can see in there like me like yelling.
Cascade raid antics. I'm gonna hit
Yeah,
play.
that's the one. I think it should start at like later 4 minutes somewhere.
Detail.
Take it out. Get these ads down.
All right, so anybody's watching.
Shut up. Stay
We got
focused.
this. Get these ads down.
Take gold out.
Take the gold away, guys.
Damn.
And which boss was this in Legions?
Coin shower.
This is in Battle for Azeroth.
We have a bot.
Kill the boss, kill the boss, kill the boss.
We gotta be ready.
Yeah, dude, we were literally, dude, all of us were. I get so, I was such a good mood every time I watch this clip, man. Fuck.
That's awesome.
That's some good nostalgia right there.
It's fucking done, guys.
That boss was a pain in the ass, man.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's that's my favorite thing in video games is just like accomplishing really hard PvE goals, I guess. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads into your earlier question of like, other Blizzard IPs. Diablo, on the other hand, contrast to Overwatch, I grew up playing Diablo, dog. Like fucking.
My first exposure was Diablo.
I played Diablo 2 almost as much as I played World of Warcraft as a kid.
Were you excited when they had Diablo 2 Resurrection come out?
Yeah, I've beaten it like 4 or 5 times now. I haven't played since Ladder started though. Like they're actually doing like balance patches on that game, which is fucking cool actually. So I need to like jump back into it soon. But yeah, I love Diablo 2. Diablo 3, I also played plenty. Don't think I'm ever gonna go back to that game, but I mean,
Diablo
I had
3
a
was
great
my
time
first one.
with the time I spent in Diablo 3. I put over 1,000 hours in that game probably.
Oh wow.
But it's I've played it enough. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like I don't need to go back to
Okay.
Diablo 3. I've experienced
You've been
pretty much everything it has to offer.
You've done all 4 acts. You know the classes. You've been around. You know how it feels like. Yeah, I thoroughly did enjoy it. That's the one. Like, I did kind of like goof off with the other Diablo games. I don't remember which one it was, either 1 or 2. But Diablo 3, that was the one where I really sank hours in and just really enjoyed it. And I was like, man, this is Diablo. I could see why people like it. And I just had a real blast just playing it. I started off with the sorcerer, and then I went to a demon hunter. Demon hunter was the one that I really enjoyed the most. I just had a blast and just trying out these new builds and I played it on console, even though like I think that was like the inferior version to play it. I remember.
I don't think console got Reaper of Souls until like it came out again on PS4 and like Xbox One. I'm pretty sure.
I
which
think
is, like,
so.
That's terrible. Like
I think so.
console just being stuck in like the vanilla Diablo 3 era with like the real money auction house and shit. That's yikes.
Yeah, and I know it had kind of had its kind of rough launch with the auction house thingy, and I think did PvP ever take off? I don't think so. Did it?
No, that's like a long-running thing in ARPGs though. Like I don't know why ARPGs keep on trying to add like PvP arena modes when they're terrible and they're never good.
I know they said they
even
want
Diablo 2. Okay, like some people like look back on Diablo 2 PvP and they're like, no, bro, like the build diversity was so cool. It wasn't. Okay, everybody played Blizzard Sorceress
with
and
this
that was
kind of
like all they
items.
fucking did, and you just like they drop it on you, and you were running like at a tenth of the speed. and then your hammer din was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw hammers, and then you were dead. You were just dead before. It's like
So
don't lie to me,
diverse.
man. Like it was not good. You know what I'm saying?
So diverse. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah.
So-
And I know they said Diablo 4 is gonna have PvP, and I'm just like,
I just don't care.
I
You know,
wonder how that's
just-
gonna be. I
In
wonder how
fact,
that's
actually,
gonna be.
the only reason I kind of care is because I feel like it's going to waste development time that could be spent on better things. But
on the more PvE content
that's
stuff.
that's just my personal opinion. I've already made it pretty clear. Not much for PvP guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is that like, man, like we could talk about World of Warcraft PvP all day because, which is
Were you
well,
about
not
it?
necessarily talk about WoW PvP in the sense that like it's an interesting subject, but it's an interesting. It's interesting how Blizzard has never cared about it at all.
It's
and
always been
that,
like
people
secondhand or
pretend
something?
like they do, and they just don't. Like the WoW PvP is it's an afterthought, and it has been forever. And
That's what I
it's sad
figured.
because it used to be cool, but
Hey, I need to go use the restroom. Can we just hit a quick pause and then we come back?
yeah, for sure. I need to grab some water. Or something
Okay,
anyway.
we're gonna be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Pausing. Okay, we're back, guys. So I had to go use the restroom. I had to go like a freaking Kentucky racehorse. I drank so many waters. Like if you guys look at my desk, it's like just empty water bottles everywhere. Anyways, Jack, what were we talking about? Oh, wait, we were about to talk about PvP in Blizzard in WoW. But before that, what are your thoughts on Diablo Immortal and mobile gaming?
I mean, mobile gaming's just like, mobile gaming, dude. You know
I don't
what
like it.
mobile gaming's like.
I don't
Mobile
like it
gaming
at all.
is- Mobile gaming is we lost. Okay, we lost on mobile gaming, right? Like, people like the initial stages of mobile gaming were like cute little games, like
Candy Crush.
throwing paper into a trash can and like Words with Friends.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
And like Temple Run, like these simple games that people designed that were super fun because they were really addicting because they were just really simple games that you just like.
Something you play while you're
chill and
waiting
play.
in the doctor's office.
Or then some game companies have like made actual real mobile games, like you think about like not Mortal Blade. Is that the name Mortal Blade? The one that was on iOS only or something?
Was
like
there like
that?
a didn't like I know Square Enix had one for the longest. Like wow, they made an actual video game on mobile.
And like I always thought that was like really admirable, right? But mobile gaming quickly became this space that's just like, do you realize how big mobile gaming is?
Huge.
Like, it's
Huge.
bigger. I'm pretty sure it's bigger than like the entire like traditional gaming market combined. Like
Dude, this is why Konami decided to like get rid of all the other stuff and they're just focusing on mobile games. This is why almost every company, whether it's Square Enix, Nintendo, Konami, and then just this own different just developers are just focusing on mobile because I talked to Ruben about it a million hundred times before, where not everybody has access to a PC, a gaming PC. Not everybody has access to a console, but just about everyone in the modern world has a cell phone within arm's reach. I'm looking down right now and my cell phone is literally an arm's reach away from me. Yep. So if you have that mentality and you're like, well, let me just put a game that's easy to learn, easy to pick up, and cost free, and it's free to play, but have some transactions that speeds up some wait times or gives you some special items, and we won't charge them much, 50 cents here, maybe $1 here, $2.99, something there. And yeah, dude, that's gonna, of course, and that's where we're at. That's where we're in now. And I find it so weird. I'm gonna go on a rant here, Jackel. But the thing is, I get so peeved when I'm having a conversation with my friends, and they're just looking down, screen dipping, playing a game, and they're just pushing buttons. I'm like, what are we doing here, dude? I thought we were having a conversation. We're hanging out. Oh yeah, I'm just playing my game real quick. I'm like, what? Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, I have a buddy who's like that with like Clash.
Chorito, bro.
No, dude. I mean, my perspective on it is mostly just that, like, dude, mobile games, their reach is like so much bigger than like most people even talk about, right? Like a lot of the like shit that's like wrong with like regular gaming, I guess, like quote unquote, like non-mobile gaming on like PC games and stuff.
It's exponential on there.
It's
yeah.
stuff that was like pulled from mobile gaming, like
yeah,
like putting like real world timers on things. This is something World of Warcraft does a lot. Like I mean, there's literally a progression system that I'm having to do right now in the game to like progress my character that has like real world timers on it. Like it's like this whole research system that you have to like progress through. And like I just started a research thing like yesterday that's gonna take 5 days, bro. 5 days to complete. And that's just like a thing that's in the video game. Like, how's that fun?
Wait. So I mean, are they putting a timer in just to make it a challenge, or is like a timer that you have to like pay and then it gives you more
like
time?
you farm a currency, then you spend the currency to start the research on this thing, and then you just have to wait 5 days, and then the thing is finished, and then you get the benefit from it. That's literally all it is. Like, it's just a timer to make it take longer and make you keep paying your subscription fee. That's like the whole
I didn't even think
reason
about
it
that.
exists.
You're right. It's I didn't even think about that.
So yeah, it's like
And
I
make
guess
sure-
my perspective on mobile gaming is that like it could have been this really cool market, but because
Greed.
you know companies have to make a profit
yeah.
because they're companies, you know, they end up making a shitty product. Like they tap into this market of like people who wouldn't normally play video games, or people who don't really have time to play video games, or don't have the money to spend on like a PC or a console or something like that. So they have a cell phone. And you can play real games on there. Like I think you can get like Knights of the Old Republic on a cell phone. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I
Or,
mean,
like RuneScape, right? Like
when
these are like games that you can play on mobile, no problem.
When I went to go get my waters out the fridge, my wife, she's playing Diablo Immortal right now on her phone.
Yeah, and see, like Diablo Immortal, like I know that was the
No.
initial question. It's just like, I mean, Diablo Immortal, man, like, I mean, it got a lot of flack
100%.
because it's Blizzard, right? And like everybody already like hates Blizzard and like,
yeah.
thinks Blizzard's.
You all remember that press
conference.
we all remember that press conference.
For everything that like is wrong with video games right now.
Yep.
In the gaming industry. But it's not just Diablo Immortal, man. Like there's
No.
tons of other
Call
games
of
out there
Duties.
that nobody talks about that you could also spend like $500,000 on, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't even bat an eye because you know
From-
these people, man, they make these video games to make money. That's like what they're there for, and it's kind of gross because
It
it's
is.
like video games should make money. They're
I
people
understand, it's
spend
business.
time making them.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
job,
business.
right?
But when it becomes
But-
profit first, quality second, like, oh, come on, man.
Well, it's like it kind of grosses me out because it's like in my mind I'm like, am I playing like? Did you make this game so that I could have fun, or did you make this game to like farm like engagement out of me? Like it just makes me feel like a cog in a machine, bro. Like
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling at all. And so like Diablo Immortal for me, I never felt particularly outraged about it, not because it's not disgusting and wrong, but because I'm not surprised. I'm not phased really. It's what I expected from a mobile game from Blizzard Entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
So blatant too. I've seen so many reviews and just watch my friends talk about it. I'm just, oh my god, the like after you finish a dungeon or a rift, they're like, hey, do you want to upgrade your stuff for 99 cents? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Would you like to purchase this? Like, oh, and then I was just like, this is ridiculous.
And the reason why Diablo Immortal has gotten more flack about it than other mobile games is partially because I think people still view Blizzard as like a PC gaming company first, which is, I mean, I suppose it's still pretty true.
and
So you get a lot of like the market of PC gamers who already think that like mobile games are kind of a joke. And these guys, chime in because first of all, it's a Blizzard game, so that already puts our eyes on that
For
radar.
sure.
But second, it's a Diablo game, so like most of us, a lot of us grew up with Diablo.
We know the
Like,
IP,
Diablo
yeah.
is like a big deal to a lot of people,
for sure.
and to see it reduced to kind of this like mobile gaming
Gotcha.
shell that everybody already hates in other forms, I think that's what the outrage mostly comes from, right? Like, but in my mind, I'm like, yeah, like as soon as Blizzard announced that Diablo Immortal was going to exist, I had already accepted that they'd taken the dog out back and shot it in the head. You know what I mean? Like it was already like
Yeah,
they're already
because
like beating the horse.
we
until it,
kind of
you know,
knew it
wakes up
was
again.
based off of like a 10-cent gotcha game that they already had already. It's just a reskin of that, wasn't it? Like, I forgot what the game was called or something like that. But
I think the initial because it was the same company that made that game that made Diablo Immortal, and so they basically like pulled the engine. But I mean, from what I understand, Diablo Immortal as a game is actually like a pretty decent like ARPG.
yeah,
It's just the fact that it's like hooked up into this mobile game system, and it's like, dude, did you try the PC port at all? Like,
I
did
heard it
you
was
try
piss
launching or
poor,
anything?
dude. Like it was secondhand. Like it was meant for mobile, and then the PC port was complete garbage.
Yeah, bro. I watched one of my friends like stream it on Discord the night that
Yeah.
it came out, and like the start screen still said tap to
Oh.
enter, and it's like, all right, bro.
Oh,
I mean, they marked it as a beta, but I mean, come on, dog. Like, seriously.
Jesus. They're not even
So-
trying. And then I see the numbers, how much dough they're raking in. I sent a message to Ruben about it. I think we were both just disgusted. Like, they made this much already. It's like, and look, I'm not here to tell anybody how to spend their money. You spend it how you see fit. But when I see this and just like being rewarded for it, they shouldn't be. And then again, you go on Twitch and you see the influencers saying, I spent this much money to upgrade my stuff. I'm like, why are you like marketing this? Like, even though it's not your money, you're getting money from your fans and then just pumping it into that and then just giving it to Activision and just you're whether it's good press or bad press, you're still just putting this game out there. Don't. Oh my, I don't know. I just get worked up. I'm not here to tell people what to do, but it's just like, why are you broadcasting this? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I just think it's like, we like these companies, they spend so much money to like basically design these games that are meant to play on like your human psyche, right? Like they're literally designed to.
Oh yeah, they know
like,
all the
addict you and pull them in.
algorithms. They know all
it's
the
like,
tricks.
you're always gonna get the people that are like, oh well, you just don't, why don't you just boycott Blizzard? Then why don't you just boycott Blizzard? It's like, well, because like me, it's not gonna make a fucking difference, man. Like if I quit. If I don't engage with Diablo Immortal at all, which I didn't, it still made $500 million or whatever.
It's already made $24 million, dude.
And like I guess the way I see it is that like realistically, you can complain all you want, but like this has been the argument in gaming for like 20 years now. Is like it all goes back to like one phrase, right? Like, don't pre-order games.
Yeah.
People are always going to pre-order games, man. Some people, they're uninformed. Some people don't care. Some people have endless amounts of hope that games will release fully completed and with no bugs and generally well designed. People, it's always going to happen. You're always going to have people that are going to spend money on pre-orders.
You're right.
On these crazy deluxe editions.
Oh yeah,
all types.
That's the conversation I could have for days for sure.
And so like that's why I don't think that I mean it's just the whole joke of self-regulation, right? Like it's only gotten worse in the past 10 years because we kept moving the goalposts, right? Like we've started to accept more and more things as normal in the industry.
It's normal to accept the game.
Used to, like be outraged about, right?
For real, no, you're right. It's normal to accept the game being buggy at launch and then fix it later on down the road. That's like the norm now. That's like the MO for these AAA developers, and we've seen it time and time again where they're like, okay, we're gonna have a patch for day one to fix everything. Like what? What happened to having this game ready to go and you already have 3 delays? Just come on, man.
Yeah, and then it creates this situation where like especially certain companies that are like really bad about it. Like Bethesda. Okay, Bethesda's a great example for this because every Bethesda game that gets released, like that's done by Bethesda North, like their main development studio, they suck on launch, like, and kind of after launch forever too.
Yeah.
Like Skyrim, bro. Vanilla Skyrim still has like some game-breaking bugs in it, even in like current special edition.
I remember like the PS3 version was.
They get fixed by like community patches and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just because like a lot of these companies will just they'll just stick with like a crappy old game engine because it saves costs and they can make like that little bit of extra profit, and then they are like, oh well, it's got modding support, so the community will fix all
The community. Oh god.
Or like. But all it really does is just, especially like I'll use Cyberpunk 2077 as an example, right? Because Cyberpunk was a game that like, even if they hadn't hyped it up as much as they did, which I think was its biggest problem.
Yeah.
But even if they hadn't hyped it as much as they did, it still would have been in an unacceptable state as it was on launch. Like, I don't know if you played it on launch.
No, dude,
I did.
I kind of wanted to because like I bought into the hype, like, man, this looks so cool, and then like I kind of just chilled out and I bought a copy for my wife because she was excited to play it, and then I just kind of sat back and just like, oh, good thing I didn't buy it from I bought it for my wife, but I was just like, oh, Wow.
Yeah, man. Like I played that. I played that game on launch on PC, and like okay, like I played Destiny. All right, like I understand. Like I can deal with some bugs in the
Okay.
video game. Right, like Destiny's a janky ass game. World of Warcraft's kind of a janky ass game too. Like I'm used to like some weirdness in like
Yeah,
long term video game experiences. But bro, Cyberpunk is
Takes
the
the
only
cake.
time in my recent memory that I can remember a game being so buggy and messed up that it like ruined my experience because like every corner I would turn like some NPCs would just be like walking straight into each other and just like stuck like like an
Yeah.
unstoppable force immovable object kind of situation or like cars would pile up into each other. Like I remember
Screen
early on I was at
tearing.
like a
People falling
I was
off the
sitting at like a
side.
four-way light like really early on in the story, and like the character Jackie, this character early on who's like your friend.
Yeah.
He's like hey Jackel, I'm gonna go onto the street, and then he like walks away, and then like three cars run over him and just like keep dun, 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 like over his body, and I was laughing my ass off, but I was also like, dude, like how am I supposed to take this game seriously? And then like in the story of that game, if you don't mind spoilers,
No. It's been long enough.
so in the story for that game, like you kind of like you can romance people like you can in like most modern like narrative
Yeah.
RPGs. So like I went with Pan Am. And Pan Am, like a lot of the romances in that game, like actually, it's kind of cool. Actually, they like tie into the main story of the game. So like, my character was a nomad start, and Pan Am's a nomad, so that gives you like a really cool character connection there.
Okay.
And then there's like some fun adult scenes or whatever. It's a fucking it is what it is.
Come on,
It's a
yeah.
good time. And you like basically end up like if you date Pan Am and that's like your chosen romance choice for the video game, then like she gets pulled into the main plot and like she has her nomad clan come and help you in the final mission. And stuff.
Okay.
It's really cool. There's like like fully different endings, like completely different missions depending on like your best friend in the
Choices
campaign.
and stuff.
And I just thought that was really sick, but they got ruined for me because on my first playthrough I went with Pan Am, and then the game bugged out right before I started the final mission and acted as if I hadn't gone with anybody. Essentially, it went with like the default ending, and I didn't realize that until after I'd finished the game and the credits were rolling, and I was like, wasn't Pan Am's like Nomad Clan supposed to help me out or something during this mission? And I looked it up and I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck, dude? So, and I wasn't about to like play through that shit again, man, because. So I read up on it and they were like, yeah, the only way to fix it is to like go back like 20 hours in the story and choose this dialogue option. And I
Oh
was like,
no.
man, like, I'm not gonna do that. What are you talking
No. That's ridiculous.
about? So it's just I just Cyberpunk's a pretty extreme example, but I really do think that like this whole culture of like releasing unfinished games, by the time people finish them or they quit them because like one of the two options, they've already had a bad experience with your game, and so like that's the way it's going to be remembered forever, right? Like I think
sure.
that's why so many people were mad about Cyberpunk is because not only was it overhyped, but like
So terrible.
I realized that like CD Projekt was in kind of a bad situation because they had The Witcher 3, which Witcher 3 launched with like some weird issues, but it was never like a crazy buggy mess.
And eventually it was one of the greatest games ever, right? From what I've heard.
I mean, I played the game like right when it came out, and I still thought it was amazing. It just the main thing I remember from like the early days of that game is that, and they patched it at some point, but it used to be that the fall damage in that game was like mega punishing for no reason. Like you could jump off of like a
house.
like a 5-foot drop, and you would just
Oh,
die.
God.
Like, it was really funny. It was like Geralt was wearing like I don't know concrete shoes or something. He would just fall super hard, but yeah, they fixed that like a few weeks in and like changed some of the movement options so it felt a little bit more fluid to control him. But yeah, I mean it was just Cyberpunk. I realized CD Projekt had big shoes to fill there, but they definitely like
They just went too hard. It was too
They
hyped.
worked
They
really
brought
hard
it
on
up too
that.
much. And yeah, and you're right. And that's how I was when I saw the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and they finished they finished the show with Todd Howard coming out and talking about Starfield. And when I first saw it, I was like, man, this game was not on my radar. And then I got hype about it. I was like, wow, this looks so awesome. This is cool. This looks. And then I was like, well, then the presentation was over. Like a week passed by. I was like, then the hypeness for me just died down because I was like, Rick, at the end of the day, it's still a Bethesda game, and you have history with Bethesda games. So
Like I think we all have like a pretty healthy expectation
Yeah.
that the game's going to be kind of a jank mess because that's just what we expect from like Bethesda's main studios.
you know,
now.
it's kind of like those commercials, like those McDonald's fails where like they show you the burger when they're like showing you the commercial and then you actually get the burger. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like, oh
Yeah.
God, you know,
it's just the whole consumer versus customer thing because like the vast majority of people, they just. Including myself, like I would say, I'm like this most of the time. Like if I go to McDonald's, dude, I'm not expecting
5-star gourmet.
Yeah, I'm not expecting like the burger to look like it does on the ad because
Yeah.
I know how it works.
Exactly.
Like, I know it's not going to look like that. All I care about is the taste. If the taste experience is fine, then like sure, like I don't mind paying for that product. But when you look at video games and they're like,
The
oh yeah,
most
we're going to paint you
ambitious
this
ever.
beautiful picture in our ad.
Yeah.
Well, in video games, it's really easy to just be like, oh yeah, we'll just do a pre-rendered cutscene.
Oh, for sure.
And then we can just say it's pre-alpha gameplay footage.
Kind
or,
of going back to
this or that, and it's like players are just willing. I won't put it.
To
that
let
way,
slide?
but like we just have certain like goalposts that have moved so far that we're like, oh yeah, like this is what every game company does,
Yeah, it's
and
the
that's
norm.
sad because like we're all willing to accept like a level of bullshit.
You're right, and I'm up there too.
And it's because companies can make a profit without actually having to fix those things.
Yeah, it's kind of like going back to Activision-Blizzard. They had like a re-release of Warcraft, and at first they're like, "This is how the game's gonna look," and then the game came out, and it was just like,
Warcraft Reforged, dude.
"Ooh." Yeah, Reforged. I'm like,
That's
oh, dude.
yeah. I think that might be the worst remake that's ever been done in the history of like the video game industry.
Like,
That's
I never-
mostly just because
I never played
like,
them, but I saw it. I was just like, oh.
Partially because it was very high profile because
Yeah.
it's a Blizzard game and it's Warcraft and everybody loves Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
But also because it was a colossal fuck up. And not only that, but they removed Warcraft 3 Classic. You can't play it anymore. It got replaced by Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Really?
And they made it to where like Dota was originally a Warcraft 3 map.
Was it?
Yeah, that's like where it got its start. That's like how Dota happened with the Warcraft 3 mod.
No, I did not know that.
And Blizzard basically is mad about that, I guess. So they basically added a terms of service to where if you play Warcraft 3 Reforged and you make any custom maps, they're owned by Blizzard and all of its subsidiaries under contract now. And like it's just stuff like that you're like, dude, like, it's like, fuck, you serious, dog? Like, come on, man. And not to mention that like the actual remake of Warcraft 3 Reforged is like just a trash ass fucking remake, like.
You know, and I'm the same way. When Street Fighter 5 launched, it was so rough, but I liked the franchise so much that I was like, it's okay, this is fine. And then in retrospect, I was like, oh my God, Rick, why did you go along with all this? But it's just because Street Fighter has always been one of my favorite franchises. I since I was a kid. And Street Fighter 5, brand new fighting game in the Street Fighter mainline series. And I played it, and yeah, there were some problems, but I was just like, it's okay, it's fine. But then eventually, I got the way Capcom handled it, and in retrospect, I'm like, man, Rick, you should have just the writing on the wall was there, man. You just didn't want to. You just put these blinders on and just accept it for what it was. And I mean, I should have accepted for what it was, and I didn't. And it's like ever since then, when it comes to fighting games, like man, you have to be really good for me to want to like get hype about it and try it out, because if not, like, and not only just fighting games, but just I'm about every game. The one I had no doubt in my mind was Elden Ring. When that game was coming out, I'm like, I'm getting this day one. I don't care.
Yeah, same.
You know, but
yeah, when it's like, I think we all have those, man. Like we all have those like we have our
franchise
principles, and we're like, oh yeah, like I'm not gonna pre-order this game. But as soon as it's a franchise that you're like,
oh yeah,
oh man.
Why
I
not?
played that so much as a kid. I want to play that so bad.
Yeah.
Like we've all been there. You know what I'm saying?
For
Like I've pre-ordered every WoW expansion ever. So even fucking Shadowlands. I'll probably pre-order Dragonflight.
Yeah.
What can I say, man? I'm just being real with myself.
You're right, for real.
I think we all have that stuff, and it sucks because it's like
yeah.
I'm somewhere between being like, yeah, I'm kind of an idiot because I know what's likely to happen.
Yeah, I don't want to be that hypocrite, but yeah, there's some franchises that I love that I'm gonna get regardless of day one, but I'm trying to be better at it for sure. I'm trying to be, look, man, when it comes to a game, I I'm pretty much at the point now where even if it's a franchise I like, I'm just gonna get the base version, and we'll take it from there. Like when you, especially, excuse me, did you see the recent Juntor collection and special collection edition of God of War Ragnarok and all the stuff, and all the little trinkets you get with it?
I've not.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the release date and stuff, but I did not look at the.
Yeah, well, you get
deluxe
you get
edition
some
or
little
whatever.
figurines and some dice and a steel case book. No physical copy of the game. Yeah, what else? A little 16-inch replica of Mjolnir. Like, you see all this awesome little stuff. I'm just like, I guess that's another way for them to monetize a game without actually monetizing a game per se. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I don't know. Like the collector's edition thing has been. That's like in a weird area for me, I think, because, so like for some background, all right, the only like collector's editions of any video game I own is I have every World of Warcraft collector's edition for each expansion since the beginning.
Okay.
Which I could sell my collection for probably about $5,000.
Oh, wow.
I guess.
Yeah, because some of that's a limited, limited edition, out of print or just not made anymore for sure.
It's mostly because of vanilla. Vanilla World of Warcraft, there was only ever like, I think 10,000 of them made. Really? And I bought mine on eBay like a few years back, and it had everything in it.
Oh, wow.
It's a super cool like thing that I have. I'll probably never sell it, but these old collector's editions came with like an art book and like a full deck of WoW trading cards and like a mouse pad. It came with like a fucking mouse pad that had like the current expansion's continent on it and stuff. And some of them have like cool little they usually come with a soundtrack as well, and like a couple of other like cool little knickknacks and
figurines,
stuff.
yeah.
I just always thought that shit was super dope, but it's like, I haven't bought a collector's edition for any other game since then, so I guess I don't really have like the the full experience of buying like a bunch of collector's editions and like the range of quality, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I'm not really like aware of like which ones are good, which ones are bad.
That's true.
So like I guess the way I see it is like, if you want to spend that much money on like something that puts a little more money in the developer's pocket, and you want to spend it on a game that you think is really good, then like that's super dope.
Now, that being said, in retrospect, I kind of wish I did buy the Elden Ring collector's edition, because I kind of want that statue of Melania, Blade of Makila.
Yeah, dude.
The
Elden Ring one is sick. Dude, you see?
Okay,
that Let Me Solo Her guy?
I saw that, dude.
Yeah, you see they sent him a sword.
They sent him a sword.
Sent him a sword. I was like, dude, that's so sick, man.
It's like that's awesome cool that the publisher saw that and recognized you for just being who you are in the community, and just and I saw his video and I saw his story, and I just like, this is so cool. I mean, I thought that I just had a blast, and I saw that on Twitter. I was just like, not bad. Good job, guys.
Yeah, dude, fucking. This shit is
pretty good.
Just super dope. So.
Yeah, but like I said,
speaking of Elden Ring, what was your what'd you think? What'd you think of your playthrough? Did you enjoy it?
I liked it a lot. I liked it. Okay, you still down for another conversation? Keep going.
Yeah, dude.
Okay. Why not?
Give me the basic path you took through the game.
So basically, I started off like Confessor, and then I wanted some little bit of magic for backup to support, and I was like Sword and Board. Then I realized I want to do something different, and then you get some some larval tears along the way, and you kind of respec. And it wasn't until like I was like level 80, 90 till I started respeccing, and I started trying out the Royal Greatsword. And I was like, man, so I wanted the Royal Greatsword and then the Moonveil Katana as a backup, just for something faster. But and I enjoyed it. But my experience with the game overall, I really liked it. I liked it a lot. There were some times where I'd play with you and Ruben, and we'd have a blast going through Stormveil Castle and fight. What was the boss there? Morgoth? Godric, the
Oh,
the boss
Margit's
boss.
the first boss, like the entry boss.
What's the
and
second
then
one? The one with
Godric
the
at the end of Stormville.
yeah, where he hacks off his own hand. What's his name?
Yeah, it's Godric.
Godric. Yeah.
the Golden.
Yeah, I remember when we fought him and we went in there and we just killed him, and then it was Ruben's turn, so he summoned us and we killed him, and I told myself, Rick, you're ruining the experience because you're not learning this boss fight and you're killing him with other people. And then I realized, dude, this is like the first boss of many. You're fine. Just go, keep playing, And sure enough, there's just so much in this game, and I love it so much, and it's jockeying in position to be one of my favorite Souls games. And not only that, but like one of my favorite games of just overall, not just this generation, but just overall one of my favorite games, because the sense of exploration, the sense of dungeon crawling, the sense of just, what build do you want? What weapons do you want to try out? What Ashes of War? What spells? What do you want? How do you want to, like, I remember you saying it, there's just so many routes that you could take in this game to get to the very end. And it's so unique in a Souls game. And yes, I get it. There's some people who are going to say, Souls games, all it is just crushing mechanics and you have to learn the fight and then it's the same thing over and over. Like, yeah, you know what, dude? Try it. It's easier said than done.
Well, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
I like the crushing mechanics and having to learn
100%.
the fight. That's like the fun part.
Yeah, dude, having to learn, and then you learn that you gotta go 1, 2, 3, dodge, and then back attack. Like, and then it just happens. It's almost like a dance, because, I mean, when I was fighting Melania, Blade of Makila, and I'm always gonna reference search it like that, I started learning all her moves, and okay, but I'll be 100%. I never learned her waterfowl dance. That one tears me up. Oh god, that was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know when to position myself, whether when I'm below her or when I'm away from her. It just, oh my god! And when I think she's not gonna do it, she does it, and then when I think she does it, she doesn't do it. But that game right there, dude, it was, and I recently beat it maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm glad you're here because I wanted to have this conversation. I mean, I could have talked about it by myself, but having you to talk to would have been a lot better because you have a lot of experience with these games. But beating this game out, and it was roughly 110 hours, but this game did not feel like 110 hours. Every time I played it, I had a blast, even though, yes, I get stuck on some bosses, even though, yes, I got lost and confused in some places. Even then, I enjoyed it. It was 110 hours. It just flew by. And it's weird because Sekiro, which I thought was my favorite Fromsoft game, I only spent 40 hours in that game, and I enjoyed it because it was a challenge. But something about Elden Ring, there's just something there that I just like, and mind you, this is still just my first playthrough. I have not gone back I haven't done New Game Plus, and I haven't started another character. I just had my one character.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, the first character always takes the longest, like exponentially, dude. Like, I don't know if you've played any of the like FromSoft games twice, like beaten any of them twice, but your second playthrough is always like a fourth of the length of your first.
Yeah, Dark Souls 3 is the one.
I know everything is. And
Yeah.
I beat everything. So.
Exactly. You know the strats. You know when to move and where to find things. Yeah.
So yeah, like my experience with Elden Ring is interesting because I've beaten the game plenty of times now. Like I think 6 or 7
Nice.
times I've finished the game. With 3 of those or 4 of those being on like one character, like New Game Plus cycles, and then the rest of them being like fresh characters that I made. So I've gotten every ending at this point. I'm missing like one achievement, I think, which is like all of the incantations. I think I
Really?
missed a book every playthrough that I keep forgetting to pick up or something. But you know, I'll get it done eventually. But you know, so like Elden Ring, I'm like almost 300 hours in.
Wow.
I am kind of taking a break now because like I've played it so much. I just need some space from it. But like, man, that game is just like, it's so fucking good. It's basically like everything that I wanted out of the Souls series, that I love about the Souls series, they nailed in Elden Ring for me. Like the challenge of the bosses and the combat until Mountaintops of the Giants, and then the game gets like ridiculously,
doesn't it?
Just like,
Because I remember Ruben telling me, dude, there's gonna be a spike in difficulty, dude. Get ready, right? I'm like, and sure, I felt it. I was like, oh, okay, yep, I know what you're talking about.
like once you get to that zone,
Oh yeah.
basically what happens is like every FromSoft game, that has like stats that you can level, which is basically all the Souls games, so like Demon Souls plus the Dark Souls trilogy, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, right?
Yep.
Those games all have like stats that you can level, and it almost always works, almost not exactly the same way, but there's always like the same rules. So like the stats usually have soft caps and hard caps,
For sure.
and like all that type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it feels like happens in Elden Ring is because the game is so long, and they have to keep the difficulty curve kind of rising up. Right around the time you go to Mountaintops of the Giants, I feel like the game hits a point where even if you've hit like the soft caps on all of your character on like your vigor, for instance, like if you have like pretty much max health and like adding another 40 points of vigor is only going to give you like, I don't know, like 100 more HP.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's the game is still at a point, dude, especially in New Game Plus, like and beyond, like, oh man, like you can't like outgrind the game anymore at
Really?
that point. And you know, for the most part in the older Souls games, in like 95% of situations, you could outplay the game, you know, and still be okay. You didn't have to rely on like over leveling your character's health or anything like that. And like, of course, there's still going to be insane gamers out there that'll do it anyway at level 1 with like no stat boosting gear because
sure.
they hate themselves, right?
They
You're
hate
always going to have like
themselves.
Souls players like that.
Yeah, so
But,
was that
like,
one guy.
You know, like in Elden Ring, dude, I'll put it this way, right? Like my main character in Elden Ring that I've pushed up to New Game 5 now.
Oh wow.
Which it scales up to +7 if you didn't know. +7 is like where it stops scaling up health and damage on enemies. So I'm on New Game 5, right? I'm in the end game in New Game +5, and I've pretty much decided to stop playing that character because I was originally planning on pushing to +7, but like I spent 10 hours grinding Melania on New Game 5, and it's she will one shot you. It doesn't matter what attack it is. I have 70 vigor on that character, and she will I mean, my character is rune level 250, right?
Yeah.
She'll just one shot me. Like she doesn't care, dude. I mean, like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what gear I wear. It doesn't matter if I drink the bubble, you know,
Doesn't matter.
flask. Like
Yeah.
you know, she's. I mean, like I'll live one hit if I drink the bubble flask, but then I'm just gonna die again later. You know, you just have to outplay her literally. So that's what made me have to actually learn waterfowl dance, is because if you don't, you just die.
You just die. Yeah.
And I wanted that kill, and dude, I got it, man. I killed Elden Beast, and I was like, okay, like
I am done.
I don't think I'm going to New Game 6. Like I don't think it's happening, bro. 'Cause
And you know, okay, so what do you suggest? Because I'm in the mindset of I want to come back to the game, but should I come back as New Game Plus, or should just start a fresh new run character? Because I kind of want to play like a dedicated caster, or I kind of want to do like a cheesy bleed katana build.
Sure.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I mean, honestly, like, I think it's worth playing the game through a New Game Plus cycle.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun, like on my first New Game Plus cycle, because I don't know if you've ever played a Souls game on New Game Plus, but like what ends up happening is that you just stomp the early game because the early game doesn't really get scaled up enough to like still to actually be a challenge.
Okay.
But the enemies still give like late game level runes. So you can kind of just like go clear a few dungeons, get some crafting materials, and just kind of chill out and hack and slash your way through the game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cathartic. And then the late game doesn't really feel that much different on New Game Plus. It's only like, I don't know, 5 to 10% harder
Is
as
it?
far as like damage
Okay.
and health. So yeah, it's definitely noticeable, but it's not gonna like, you know, it's not impossible.
Yeah,
or
and also what
anything.
I've noticed too is like there's still a whole bunch of like I'm watching like some YouTube videos of like, oh, here's a Colossus hidden somewhere off the ledge of Caelid, or a golem hidden somewhere off a little ledge of Caelid that has an ash of war that you've probably never seen before. Like what? Or here's a underground catacomb or a tomb or something that's full of those guardian dogs statues that drop the best colossal weapon. I'm like, what? There's also this area that I'm like, there's so many. Like, I still got to go back and finish like these other side bosses. I was able to beat Melania, Blade of Makila, and I'm trying to fight that one dragon. I think I told you about it over there in Azul Farum. Is that with a P? Palistrax?
Placidusax, yeah.
How do you say that?
Placidusax?
Placidusax?
Yep, that's the one.
I killed Fortisax, the one underground over there by Fia. I gotta kill him now. The one Placidusax. I gotta kill him now. I gotta find him. But yeah, and then other than that, I was like, what other big boss?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what you missed so far, but yeah, I mean, like I'm on my, like I said, I'm on like my 7th or 8th playthrough or something, and I haven't even done every NPC quest line yet. Like
I know.
there's like a lot of content in the game, so you know.
And when I finished the game, I got the new moon ending, the Ronnie's ending,
Oh yeah, dude, that was my first ending too.
and I was like,
Lady Rani.
and then I saw like the a YouTube video to show you like these other endings. I'm like, wait, what? Oh my god, I don't even have the slightest clue to how to even begin. That's another thing. I've told you this 100 times already. When it comes to FromSoft games, it's like there is a ton of lore everywhere if you want to find it, and you can find extra source material to get information, or if you want to ignore it, that's totally fine. Go play the game. You know, I love about that game.
Like my first playthrough, I basically my first playthrough took like 150 hours, and that's mostly because I stopped to read every item description, because Souls games tend to hide
They
a
do.
lot of the lore and like background and item descriptions and stuff.
I was watching
reading every item description. I was like listening to every NPC dialogue. I was trying to piece together what was going on in the game's story, because you know I love that aspect of Souls games. You know, it's not for everybody, but I love like the sort of understated storytelling. And,
Yeah,
like,
I had to watch
telling stuff by context.
I had to watch a Vati video, and he would pull out the flavor text on items and start breaking it down from there. I'm like, holy crap! Like the whole Nox people and everything.
That is the standard experience, man. You could go back and watch Vati's videos on like Dark Souls 1 and stuff, dude. Same way.
Yeah. I was
Which
just like, Jesus.
so yeah, you know, like my first playthrough took forever just because I was like, I'm just gonna fully immerse myself, and I tried to explore every location I could possibly find. I still missed like a bunch of places in my first playthrough.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah, dude.
because some stuff, like, dude, like I did Ronnie's questline on my first playthrough, and like I remember being so like blown away by that, because in no other Souls game or like any FromSoft game has such a large area and like portion of the game been locked behind like an NPC quest line. Like you just straight up can't go to like the upper area of Noxtella, or like you can't go to the Lake of Rot. Like you can't go to any of those areas unless you do Ronnie's quest line at least up to that point. And I had never seen anything like that in a Souls game, because they don't really tend to lock stuff like that. Like usually stuff that's locked behind NPC quest lines is like certain items, certain armor sets, sometimes like
maybe a small zone,
like not boss fights, but like sometimes you'll walk up on like an NPC, like two NPCs fighting each other if you're doing their quest line properly and stuff like that.
Yeah. But
hardly ever is it just like or like never before was it like just an entire zone in the game that you could go to.
Yeah.
So I just always thought that was crazy.
Like I said, I was watching Ruben play, and he's like, "Hey Rick, you should go here next and talk to so and so, and then go underground. Take that elevator underground." I'm like, "What elevator?" He's like, "You don't know what I'm talking about." I'm like, "Wait, there's a whole."
Yeah, bro. Like I remember when we found that place. Or like when I found that place in my first playthrough, because what happened was I was in Mistwood, and I was kind of like exploring that area in Limgrave, and I remember like seeing that building, and I walked inside, saw it was an elevator, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna mark this on my map, and I'm gonna come check this out later. So then I like went off and did a bunch of other shit. I like cleared Castle Morn. I like tried to go into Caelid, and I was like, this is a terrible idea.
No.
And then like went back to Stormvale Castle, pushed up into Liurnia, and like did some stuff up there for a while, and then I remember like looking on my map and being like,
"Oh yeah,
what should I do next?" And I saw that marker, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I should go check out that thing. I never went there." So I like step on this elevator, and it goes down for a while,
and it keeps going
like 2 or 3 minutes, and you're just like, "Huh, it's weird. There's not a lot going on." And then all of a sudden, it like opens up, and there's just
stars everywhere,
and like this big temple. And I was like, oh, this is a crazy little sub area. This is super cool. Walked around for a while, and you find the second elevator, and then you find out the area is like 4 times bigger than you thought it was.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm sorry. Is this real life?
Yeah, I was like, because you've never seen that before.
It blew me away, man.
Yeah, and then it's funny because you're first playing the game. You go to, you come out the cave, and then you go into the ruins that's a little bit north of you, and then you open a chest, and it sends you across the map. And you're like, wait, this map is this big?
Yep.
And you're like, what? Yeah, you tell your friends like, don't open that chest, and they open the chest anyway, and they end up in Caelid.
Or the one that's there's one that's on the Weeping Peninsula that's on the top of a tower, and it sends you to Lanedell. It sends you to like a raised area of Lanedell that you can't get to any other way, and you can have like a whole view on the giant dragon corpse.
And I
stuff
need to
there.
find that one. I need to find that one because I gotta get access to Melania's Tower. I think that's that Tower of Isolation that's just out there in the middle.
Yeah. Once you get late enough in the game and you go to that place, you can take one of those like stone portals. That are all
You
in
can't.
the
Yeah.
world, and
Maybe
it
next time I
takes
play,
to
you
that,
show
like,
me.
It takes you to that divine tower that's out in the middle of the ocean that you can only see on the map.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of missing things, I was talking to my buddy Travis, and he was, kind of like giving me some heads up about the Volcano Manor quest line and everything. And he's like, "All right, Rick, when you're done, you're gonna miss out on some stuff." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I finished, I finished that quest line, and then like it gets filled in with lava, and then like later on, I realized like, wait, you could explore more in Volcano Manor. I was like, oh, I totally missed it. Like, I totally missed exploring the inside of Volcano Manor, like the city part of it.
Oh, you didn't like do the dungeon
Yeah,
section at
I didn't
all?
know. I didn't know you could explore it. I thought you just had to go to the
man.
NPCs, and then that's it. And then it gets filled up with lava, and then you gotta go fight the boss there. I was like, wait, I could have explored. I was like, oh, I totally missed that. I was like, oh, like this
Well,
in this
it's
game.
easy to miss too, because like the dungeon section, like if you're doing the Volcano Manor quest line, so you like get to Volcano Manor and the way you enter it initially from the mountain is that you like you end up like in that lobby area, right? With it's like a peaceful area where you can't attack, and like that's where you do the quest line from, right?
Yeah.
But to get into the dungeon section, you have to like roll into a like illusory wall that's in one of the rooms there, and it just leads into a side hallway, and that's what actually takes you into the dungeon. It's so
Oh,
stupid.
man.
Like it's so weird to me that they just hid that entire dungeon behind this illusory
Okay.
wall. The only other way in there is to get abducted by that fucking Iron Maiden at the bottom of
remember that.
Hogwarts. That's
Yeah,
the only other way
yeah.
to get in there.
I remember that part. I remember that. Oh, so, wait. So can I still explore it from there, or is it too late for me?
You should be able to go into the dungeon if you haven't started your New Game Plus cycle yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
But that-
basically, when you go to the Volcano Manor, if you travel there, you'll be in the room with the Crucible Knight, right? That's like guarding the lady.
Yeah.
And if you look down the hallway, the first door on your right, you should be able to open it, and there'll be like the back right corner of the room. There'll be like a wall with a painting or something on it. You can roll into that, and it'll take you into a side room.
Okay.
That'll lead you to the rest of the dungeon. So.
Again, going to From Software. Hey, is it possible you could miss some stuff? It sure is. Are we gonna tell you about it? Not really.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah, and that's like holy shit. So I gotta go back and play the game more. And the thing is, it was so weird because the game came out. I played it like just straight for like I want to say 2 weeks, just enjoying it. And then something happened. I think it was like it was right before the first major balancing patch. I played it. I was able to get the Sword of Night and Flame. I went to General Radon and I killed him using that weapon. And I just felt so like, it's like, man, I was supposed to learn this fight. And instead, all I did was just use freaking the Kamehameha wave from this weapon and just killed him. And then the next day, like the major update came out and I kind of just took like a whole month away from the game. And I was just like, man, like, I don't know. I felt like even though this game is accessible to bring in a lot of people into the series to play FromSoft games, I just felt like I should have done this. I should have done this fight the right way, learning it the in and out. But then again, it's like, is there a right way of killing the boss? I don't know how you feel about that. About having ashes and summons and really OP weapons early. Like, I don't know. Like,
I think people care way too much about like what other people do in their playthroughs of video games. Honestly, like, I mean, I draw the line in certain places. I suppose like I don't want difficulty options in Souls games, not from an accessibility standpoint, but mostly from. I just think that like the delicate balance of Souls games, like the entire way they're balanced, is not through difficulty options. It's through adding tools to solve problems. Like that's like the whole point of like Spirit Ash summons and stuff is like. You can either use them because it's just your playstyle and you like using them, no judgment here, or you can use them because they make the game easier for you. Like,
Yeah.
I also think that's a totally valid way to play the game. Like,
you're right.
That FromSoft gives you the option to like do what you need to do to finish the game correct. Like at least in my opinion. So I think it's the only reason I'm opposed to like difficulty options specifically in FromSoft games is just because I think it would ruin the experience.
No, I agree 100% because
Not from like a oh yeah, like I beat this hard game kind of experience. I just mean like I think the game balance would be terrible because I think that having like an easy mode would just kind of like cheapen it, I guess.
no, you're right. You're supposed to learn these bosses, whether you have ashes or summons or whatever. You know, in the end, you still have to learn these bosses and what they do because sometimes you won't be able to summon or use a special item. But going back to the whole open world aspect of it, you know, when I tried playing Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon Forbidden Dawn. Wait, what's the first one? Forbidden Dawn, Forbidden West, Forbidden Dawn. Zero Dawn, Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah. So, you know, those are kind of, you know, Sony first party open world games. And I remember like those games just did not mesh with me. I just did not care. I just felt like they were just too cookie cutter. Like, here's an icon, go explore. Oh, we need you to go fetch this and then come back. And then I need you to go save my uncle and then come back. And then here's a camp of bandits, go clear them out. In Elden Ring, yeah, it's open world as in a sense that where do you want to go? Just go. But there's no like, hey, pick this up. Hey, go to this tracker. Hey, follow this. Hey, this is an NPC. The game just says, here's a UI where it shows your items, where it shows your health, and where do you want to go? Have at it. You know, there's something refreshing about.
It's like the same. It follows the same philosophy that like Breath of the Wild does, where they're like, the world on its own is interesting, and like we're gonna let that speak for itself. You know, like we don't need to make like stupid fetch quests that are like go kill 12 boars over in this area because one developer spent like 10 hours making this cool looking waterfall lake thing, right? Like it doesn't like no one's like you know, like okay, a good moment that like pops in my head is in Breath of the Wild. There's like this place. Have you played it?
Oh yeah.
Breath of the Wild?
Oh yeah,
so,
I love it.
So you know how like the Forbidden Woods is sort of in like the northern section of the map, like like north of Hyrule Castle, and then west of there is the snowy fields with the labyrinth and stuff.
Yes.
Well, between those two areas is like a crevasse.
Oh yeah.
And like when you go up into the crevasse, you can see from far away that there's like some ruins kind of like built into the side of the mountain. And I remember seeing that place and being like, I marked it with like, because you could go into your scope and like put a little marker on the map
a little pin
like, from your scope.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that'll be like one of the places I'm gonna check here pretty soon. So I'm like checking out all these other areas. You know, I went like up to a shack and like found a dude and like shield surfed for a while or something. Finally came back around to it. I was like, oh yeah, those ruins at the side of the mountain. You go down in there, this place looks incredible. You're just like, wow, this is nuts. Like there's no marker on the map for this. There's no label on the map that tells you what this place is called. It's just like a place that's here.
Completely.
Then you go inside and there's like 17 ancient guardian turrets that all aim beams at you at the same time, and you're just like, who put this here? Like what is happening? And it's just moments like that like I love in video games where they didn't need to like tell you to go there. They didn't need to tell you to explore. They were just like, yeah, we're gonna put this here, and hopefully people will find it and they'll think it's cool, you know.
And
like,
if they don't, well,
I love that aspect. Like, I love a game that respects your intelligence and says like, hey, you know what the fuck you're doing. You played video games before, like, you know, figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, yeah. Again, Breath of the Wild, the game basically said, okay, here's a starting area. We're gonna give you all the tools you need to discover and solve your way through the world, and there you go, goodbye, enjoy the rest of the world. Where do you want to go? You know, the game says, hey, you should go find these 4 divine beasts, you know, to start with, and then beyond that it's like, okay, now wherever you want to go, just go. And that's what I like about games, that they don't hold your hands like, what do you want to do? Go explore. Because I'm pretty sure my playthrough compared to Ruben's playthrough, compared to your playthrough, I mean, we all kind of like started in the same area, and then just from there, just kind of like, I remember Ruben telling me, oh yeah, I already went to this area first, or you like, oh, I already went to this area first, or I went, you know, down here and then just explored. And just like, even though you all have the same starting point, the game could go anywhere, and you're still gonna end up at Lindell Capital, right outside the Erd Tree. But the journey to get there is just however way you see fit, you know, depending on how your play style and what items you want to find and how you explore it.
Exactly, man. Yeah, like that's like 100% how I feel about Elden Ring. I think like and that's what sets it apart for me from the other Souls games. Like, because it's weird because I view them almost a little bit differently. Because for me, and I was going to talk about this before we started recording.
Mhm.
Like, we were talking about like, making a tier list or something for the games, and like I'm not going to make like a tier list right now, but it's just like the reason why Bloodborne used to be my favorite in the series is because I love the combat in that game, and like
great.
in some ways I like it more than Elden Ring still, just because one of my
switch
favorite
attacks?
things to do with the Souls series, and like straight up, man, like this is why I always say like they're my favorite games, because they're the only games besides like MMOs, I guess, that I'm able to like just sit down and do a playthrough. You know what I'm saying? Like Bloodborne, the year it came out, I think it was 2015.
2015, I think. Yeah, November, I think.
Yeah, I've beaten that game twice a year since it released.
Nice.
Because sometimes and it takes me maybe like 8 hours. Because I'll just sit down and be like, okay, I just want to play Bloodborne, so I'll just sit down, I'll play Bloodborne for a few hours, play it for a few more hours the next day, and finish it, and just be like, yep, that was my Bloodborne playthrough. That was fun.
Yeah.
And like I do that with the Soul games all the time. Like, dude, after my first playthrough of Elden Ring, I went back and beat Dark Souls 1 again, just because I hadn't beaten in a while, and I just wanted to play it. So. And that kind of comes back to a question you asked me, like, is it worth it to go back and play the old Souls games? I think it is.
Yeah.
It's funny because Demon Souls. Did you play Demon Souls remake?
The one that came out from Blue Point on the PS5.
Yeah, on
Yeah,
PS5.
that was my first version of playing Demon Souls. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, the gameplay is pretty much exactly the same as the original. So, yeah, it might be funny because like. If you played Demon Souls, you might find Dark Souls 1 and 2 really weird because they're actually a little bit further away from like modern Souls design. Because I actually think
Really?
Demon Souls is a lot more floaty and sort of fast paced as far as its combat. I mean, you still have like equip load and stuff,
Yeah.
but like, I think it's closer to Dark Souls 3 than it is to like Dark Souls 1 or 2.
Okay.
Which is funny because it's like the oldest incarnation of the Souls formula.
Well,
so.
Dark Souls 3 was actually my first gateway Dark Souls game.
Yeah, I remember us talking about
Yeah.
that one time. I think you said it was your first one.
Yeah. And I remember, I was talking. I think this is how actually I got to meet you, because me and Ruben had a bet about something. I forgot what it was. And if he lost the bet, he had to play Bloodborne. And if I lost, I had to play Witcher 3. So he lost the bet, and he kind of kept putting off Bloodborne. I was like, dude, you need to play Bloodborne, dude. He's like, okay, fine. And he finally did. And I remember you in chat, and we kind of just hit it off, just talking about, Souls games and everything. And I remember Ruben saying, man, I'm glad I played Bloodborne because it reinvigorated his love for these games. And I just like, man, the community of Souls games is just so awesome, because not only did I get to meet you, but when I would stream Bloodborne or Sekiro or whatever, people from the Souls community will come in and just start chit-chatting with me and just giving me advice or just hang out and just give me some pointers and stuff to look out for. I was like, man, that is so awesome.
Yeah, man. Like, I just, I think it's because these games, they're so captivating for the community, I think, because they have such little guidance. They don't really tell you exactly where to go or exactly what to do. Everyone kind of has to figure it out their own way, but because of the way the multiplayer is designed and because of the way that online communities work, people, give each other tips. They sort of point out things. They're like, oh yeah, like I found this here, or like I discovered that you can do this thing with this thing, right? And like, once you start building up that level of knowledge, and it just feels really cool. Like, it's sort of like you solved the game rather than the game like holding your hand and giving you like a pop-up tutorial on your screen every 10 seconds.
Or the main hero and telling you what to do next.
Making you climb a tower for the 500th time to reveal the map, and go to some fucking job market board that tells you to run over here and kill this guy. Like it respects your problem solving ability, I guess. And
Yeah.
I love that about the Souls games. Like everybody kind of has this shared experience that, like, while it's not exactly the same for everybody gets hung up on different parts of the series, and different boss fights like challenge you more than for somebody else, right?
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so cool, is that like some people can be like, oh yeah, dude, like, friggin' owl, my owl fight in Sekiro, I fucking smoked that guy. Okay, I think I got him like my third try. but then like fucking Demon of Hatred I wiped on for like 10 hours. So it's like, it just depends on the person, right? Like sometimes you just
You're talking about
have
Owl.
like a
You're talking about Owl when you're in the dream state in the burning building.
fuck no, dude. Owl Father's way harder than regular. No, I'm talking about regular ass Owl. Like when you choose the Immortal Severance ending, and you have to fight him because he's like, you remember because you get to the top of the building and he's like, yo, betray him, and you're like, no,
No, I won't.
and then you have to fight him.
So you think that fight is easier than the dream state Owl?
No, I think yes, yeah, I think the Dream Owl is like way harder than regular Owl.
Okay,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Because I remember Dream State Owl was, that's him and Red Demon of Hatred. I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, dude. Father Owl I hate that fight. I mean, I hate it because it's fun. Like, is what I'm saying. It's really challenging.
Is
It's
that-
just, God,
it-
man, that fight's so frustrating.
What's the name of the one in when you fight him in the Dream State in the burning building? Did he have a specific name?
Yeah, it's Owl Father. It's like Owl
Owl.
and then Father
Okay.
Father in parentheses.
Okay, Owl Father. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the one in that room.
Um,
That okay. Now I know.
It's shirtless Owl. Yeah.
Shirtless Owl. I like that. Yeah, I remember fighting him. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And then eventually, I was like, and again, when I beat him, and when I beat Red Demon of Hatred, I was just like, I don't get this. The only time I get a feeling like this is again when I'm playing a fighting game and I'm fighting I'm playing an online match and I had to squeak out a win and I just do it by the skin of my teeth. That's how I get. That's the unique feeling I get with these kind of games when I play fighting games or when I finish a boss like from software, because these games push back. They don't care about what you've done before. Can you do this fight? Do you know? Can you, react? Do you know the sequence? Do you know what you have to do? Do you know how to prepare?
And I think part of it too is just like, for me being able to prove to myself that I can like get better at something. That's like a big source of fulfillment for me. Like, not just with video games, but like in my professional life. Like I always want to be learning something. I always want to be improving myself. So like,
sure.
That's why like that's what made me start doing like challenge runs in Souls games. Like I've finished every game at level 1 except for I haven't done Elden Ring yet. I'm planning on doing that probably next year.
Nice.
I've finished every other Soul game at level 1 or Blood level 4 for Bloodborne, because for
Really?
some reason you can't start at level 1 in Bloodborne. But
Okay.
but it's like, I mean, I love those challenge runs. The one I've done the most is definitely Bloodborne, because like, and half of my Bloodborne challenge runs are like not even on purpose initially. Like I'll usually get like halfway through the starting area in Bloodborne, and then I'll be like, I could turn this run into this kind of a weird thing. Like I had one run where I just put points into Arcane all the way up to 99, and I only use the Road Marinus, the flamethrower.
Really?
And it does a lot of damage, man. Let me tell you, it does a lot of damage.
I plan on going back to. I want to go back to Sekiro like in August, because it'll be a year since I played it, and I'm looking forward to it because I know the combat's going to be different compared to Elden Ring, and also I think in October, just for fitting the theme of Halloween, I want to go visit Bloodborne again. And I don't know. I mean, even though like I've played Sekiro once and I played Bloodborne on at least twice already. I never did the DLC. I need to go back and get that the Knight's Blood or something. Or the Knight's
DLC, the Old Hunters.
The Old Hunters, yeah.
The Bloodborne DLC is probably like,
I've heard great things about it.
If I were to judge it as its own game,
Yeah.
I think it's probably better than Elden Ring still.
Really?
Just that DLC on its own. Yeah, it's such a complete package. Like all 3 bosses. Okay, 2 of the 3 bosses are really good.
I heard your chair creak. Like, oh, he's getting up for this.
Yeah, the areas are so sick, and like the theme is super cool, and the weapons that are in there
Yeah.
are like. Wait, actually, hold on. I'm not even like I'm like off my. Like there's 5 bosses in the DLC.
Is there?
I think.
Dude, and I kind of want. I was like,
Yes.
look. I was like, Sony. I know you guys have one of your, what was it, Team Naughty Dog or whatever. Like they're doing a remaster of The Last of Us again. Like cool. Like you telling me you just can't get Bloodborne to Blue Point and be like, hey, just not even have to remaster it. Just kind of bring it up to 60 frames per second. Just make it modern for current monitors and stuff like that, and just polish it up a little bit. You can't like they can't do it like make it a definitive edition. Just roll it in with a DLC and stuff like. Come on, guys. Come on. Bloodborne is one of the,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the best ones out there. It's. I mean, they're all really good, but Bloodborne just happens to be one of the top dog when it comes to the FromSoft franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because, Sekiro. I played it.
Mm-hmm.
I played it right when it came out. I beat it. I beat it twice.
Okay.
I beat it once through, and then I beat it on New Game Plus, which
Mm-hmm.
was probably the easiest New Game Plus experience I've ever
Really?
had in a FromSoft game. Mostly because deflecting is just OP, but like I don't know, it's weird because like Sekiro, I actually think Sekiro might have the best combat out of all the FromSoft.
I think you're
games.
right. It feels
It's
the most
just
rewarding.
it's so good. Like no, I don't think I've ever played a game that made me actually feel like I was using swords
Yeah.
as much as Sekiro did. Like the deflecting and the clangs and the
And then jumping
the
around and
s-
using the Mikiri counter, and then
oh,
yeah.
dude, like the sound effects
Oh,
and
yeah.
like
I'm telling you,
death
dude.
blows with the stabs. It's just it's so good. Like
I'm
the
telling
feedback
you,
is
dude.
so great.
When you're fighting
And,
that one monkey, that giant ape, when he has his head off, and then he comes in swerving and coming down, then he comes up, and he drops the blade on you, and you parry it, and you're just like, just rolling.
yeah,
all,
you like slide back.
that.
Yeah.
Like I feel that when I see that. Like I literally feel like that he parried so hard, you got slid back. I'm like, that just is so awesome to me. I was like, yeah, I agree. When it comes to the combat, deflecting in Sekiro is scary and rewarding at the same time. I don't know how that works, but it does. And I have some friends who are like, I don't want to play Sekiro. It's just too hard. I'm like, dude, even if it is hard, even if you don't ever beat it, just play it. You should like experience it.
Yeah.
Experience what that game has to offer because it's unique when it comes to the From Software games, hands down.
Yeah, like I think Sekiro is the most like satisfying to get better at because it teaches you so well like how to actually like improve at its combat, and it's very simple, but it's very like effective, and the feel of the combat's super good.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody this the other day, just that like if they took Sekiro and made it the size of Elden Ring, like bro,
Get out.
or like not Sekiro necessarily, but just like a game with its style of combat. Like if FromSoft did that again, they pushed it in like the Elden Ring size. Like, oh man, dude, I'd be lost, bro. I'd be lost in that game.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I said, I've from all the From Software games, that's the one where that combat is just so unique. And I was intimidated at first because Ruben purchased that game for me on Steam because I always talked about like, yeah, I like Souls games. Yeah, I like Souls games. He's like, oh yeah, I'll play this one. I'm like, all right, well, I said I like Souls games.
He still hasn't even beaten it, man. It's the only one he's missing. So.
And I can't say shit because I haven't beaten Dark Souls 1 and 2. So I can't say anything.
Okay, look, Sekiro's way harder than both of those games combined. So I'm just gonna put that out there. Like I think you should play them.
Yeah.
But like Dark Souls 1 is the easiest Souls game
Is
by
it?
far. It's just dated is all. It's just dated.
No,
and like if you do play them, or when you do play them, I don't know. Like
I
if
will.
if you play them, like they're just a lot different from the more modern incarnations of the games. Those two particularly, but especially Dark Souls 1. Like Dark Souls 1's kind of in its own category because it's more of a Metroidvania. And I know that's like a really like generalizing term, but it just the world design in Dark Souls 1 is very like it's so different from the other.
Is
other
it similar to
FromSoft
like
games.
Demon Souls, kind of like 4-2, 1-3, stuff like that?
No. So basically, almost everywhere in Dark Souls 1 you can go without ever going through a loading screen.
Ah.
And in fact, the first half of the game you don't have bonfire warping, so you have to actually run from place to place, and like.
Okay.
You unlock shortcuts that take you like 7 zones back, and the world actually like spatially makes sense. So like you can be up on top of a bridge and see like like a lower section of the level, and then you can end up in that area like maybe 2 hours later and look back up and see the bridge that you were on. And and people have actually done tests with the game files where they like load a map and then they stand like on the exact coordinates of the other map where they would have been looking down, and the geometry actually lines up.
Really?
the long distance geometry actually lines up and stuff. Like, it's
Dang.
super crazy. I don't know how they like pulled that shit off, but it is nuts. I
Y-
mean, there's still a few inconsistencies here and there because no game's perfect.
For
but
sure.
like, it's really impressive, and you kind of have to play the game to understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But like Dark Souls 1 is 100% worth playing through just for that reason alone. You need to experience like why most people consider Dark Souls 1 to be like a masterpiece, because it's really that. It's the world design of Dark Souls.
Which version would you suggest? The one that's on Steam right now? I think it's called like remastered, and it's like 1 and 2.
Well, you can't buy Prepare to Die edition anymore. Unfortunately, it's the original PC release. It's slightly more stable in some ways, but remastered's perfectly fine. Like,
Okay.
I would definitely play through remastered. for
Okay, I
sure.
have to look at those then. Yeah, when it comes to like when you talked about, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as Dark Souls 2, just play Scholar of the First Sin. It's basically the Game of the Year edition. It comes with all the DLCs that they
okay.
released for it and stuff. So.
Yeah, when you were talking about just in Dark Souls 1, you could just walk around everywhere. When I was playing Bloodborne, when I finally you kick a ladder and you're like, oh, this is a shortcut. Bloodborne to me did a really good job with that whole dungeon crawling and finding shortcuts and like, oh, this leads to this. Like, oh my, okay, this is awesome. Like the world in Bloodborne, not only is it menacing and threatening at every turn that you discover and you take, but when you get to find these shortcuts, you're like, oh, this leads to that. Because again, minus Elden Ring, there is no freaking map button, so it's just like, wait, where are we going again? Let me think about this. You know, there's just
Right. Well,
there's something about that.
Bloodborne does do it particularly well, I would say, for sure. Like, I remember when you defeat Dark Beast Parl for the first time in like when you go to Yahargul, like before you kill Rom. Like you get kidnapped by the dude with the bag, and he like puts your face in.
I remember
and you're
him.
just like, wow, that hurt, and then he takes you to that place.
I remember him.
When you beat Parl there, and like it opens the door behind him, and you realize it leads into Old Yarnum, and you're just like, whoa, that's cool. Like I didn't realize that connection was going to be there, right?
Yeah.
But Dark Souls 1 takes it to like a whole nother level. Early on in Dark Souls 1, you start off in the Asylum, and then after you finish the Asylum, you get flown to Lordran, which is like where the game takes place, basically. There's a guy there, and he's like, hey man, like, you gotta ring 2 bells of awakening to like progress the story, is basically what he tells you. And then you're like, okay. He's like, well, the first bell is like up in the church that you see up there, and the second bell I have no idea. So you're like, okay, well, how do I get up to the church? And he's like, lol, I don't know. So you kind of like run off, eventually find your way all the way up to the church, fighting your way through like the lower Undead Burg and like all this stuff, like the early game areas. And you get up to the church, and there's like an elevator there, and you're like, oh, that's cool. There's an elevator in this church. Step on the elevator, it takes you all the way back down to the hub that you started at, and you're like, oh my god, that whole loop I just went on connects, and now I have a shortcut back to the church whenever I need to go up there for like smithing my weapons and stuff. And it's just like, it's super cool the way that they and like between those 2 points, there would have been like 17 other like shortcuts you would have opened to like random spots on the map. And you just start to like learn the world and like how it all fits together. And the cool thing too is that the lore in Dark Souls 1 makes it make even more sense. Like they'll describe stuff in the item descriptions that you're like, oh, I see why this area is connected to this area, because, you know, like for instance, like the depths in Blighttown, like, you know, the depths were basically just like a sewer system that got converted into a prison. And then they like just kept throwing people down there, and then eventually the people like would die and rot, and then that would all fall down into Blighttown, and then the people who were, you know, too diseased or undead to like really have any sort of like brain power anymore just ended up in Blighttown building this giant shanty town made out of like crappy wooden structures, and there's bugs and mosquitoes everywhere that want to kill you, and there's poison all over the place.
I can't wait to play it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's great. It's a great place.
Speaking of the story, when I found out George R. R. Martin was, you know, helping with the story building when it came to Elden Ring, at first I was like, man, do I really care? But something about Elden Ring, the story, maybe because I'm a fan of George R. R. Martin, but this story I really want to get into it, and I kind of hope it spins off into maybe some novels or something. But I'm really excited for this story, and I'm also like been eyeballing you might have seen it, but I think Bandai Namco is going to release like these strategy guides, these books that are coming out. And I know you could get the information online. You know, you go to the Elden Ring wiki, but there's something about having the book in your hand and actually just looking at it and see the illustrations and maybe, you know, just some background knowledge of the world. To me, that just seems fascinating, and that's something I'm looking forward to if they ever, continue to build on more or release more stories or novels on the Elden Ring lore.
Well, and yeah, and I also think I'm pretty sure that the guides that Bandai Namco are releasing are through Future Press, which Future Press has done all of all of FromSoft's strategy guides like forever now.
Oh, really?
Like basically since Dark Souls 1, I believe.
Oh.
And the guys who write the strategy guide at Future Press are like actual members of the like long time members, like since the 2012 to 2013 days, like members of the YouTuber community for like one of the guys I know German Spy is like a guy who's like he's like a pretty big deal in the like Souls community online. He's like a real OG, and I used to watch his videos like on like I used to watch his lore videos. Like I remember straight up watching like a 40-part series of him playing through Demon Souls, just like reading every item description and explaining the lore and the characters and stuff. Because that's how fucking obsessed I was with these games back in those days.
I'm glad. Oh, no, finish your thought.
And like guys like that, like he literally is like a part of all the Future Press guides and stuff. So like you can be guaranteed that like those guides are really high quality. So
We're gonna put...
sure. I mean I own the Future Press guides for Bloodborne and all 3 Dark Souls games. So
sweet, yeah. When it came to when I got information and learned that they're gonna give Demon Souls to Bluepoint to make the remake on PlayStation 5. At first I was kind of like, okay, cool. But then like I actually like sat down and I'm like, man, I'm glad they did do this. I'm glad they got an older game and brought it up to the PlayStation 5 graphics and specs just to make it look so good. And I'm really glad that I was able to experience it, because before then, like Demon Souls, like, oh yeah, Demon Souls kind of like, it was like Dark Souls before Dark Souls. So I was ignorant. I didn't know any better. But playing it on the PlayStation 5, I'm like, I'm glad I did, and I'm excited. Honestly, that was like the only game I had on PlayStation 5 for the longest. And
see, when I remember when they announced like Demon Souls was getting remade by Bluepoint, like I had already played the Shadow of the Colossus remake at that point, and like the PS4 remake that Bluepoint did. So I was already like, okay, like they picked the perfect team for this, because they just know how to fucking do a remake, like they really do. So, I mean, dude, if they ever announce that Bluepoint's doing like Bloodborne, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit.
Yeah, at this point, anything that Bluepoint does, if it's something that I knew from my nostalgia days or anything that's FromSoft, like, yeah, I'm 100% down, because like Demon Souls, I had my little problems with it, but but in the end, the overall product of it, like I thoroughly did enjoy it, and I'm glad I experienced that game, because it's something that I'm just glad I did.
It's just an extremely like linear Souls experience with like some really cool weapons and builds and some pretty fun PvP. And that's like pretty much Demon Souls. Some of the bosses are kind of trash, and some of the areas are the Valley of Defilement.
Yeah, that one's
just bad, but
that one surprisingly, I flew through that one. I was like, I'm gonna get this done ASAP, because I do not want to be here more than I have to. And then I remember, was it Stormvale Island? No, what's the island with all the manta rays?
It's
I forgot what it's called.
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I remember that area. I was like, man, this is so unique. This land is like, wow. It's just so dark and menacing. It was just unique. I haven't seen anything like that before.
Excuse me,
dude. We're approaching 3 hours.
Shrine of Storms. That's the name of that.
Shrine of Storms, yeah.
But yeah. I mean, 3-hour conversation. But hey,
Oh, I appreciate it though.
Yeah, man. It's a good combo,
So
I can talk for a long time.
I know. This is why I'm glad I had you, because I'm probably gonna break this down to like 2 videos, and then just have one.
That's understandable.
Break it down 1 week and then another half.
Split it between Blizzard and FromSoft.
And I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk much about Activision-Blizzard, but I'm glad you did brought it up, because we're able to go to a lot of subjects and just bring up and talk about, like, it was able to branch off into microtransactions and mobile gaming and just the history of the game. Like, so Jackel, like, I'm really glad you able to sit down with me and have this conversation, because it's just awesome. Because, dude, I've never had a 3-hour conversation with, like, on any podcast, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now. So thank you very much, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I have a lot of opinions. So.
Yeah, I know, and I like them. And hopefully in the future, we could do this again and and do this again. Continue the conversations, whether it's Elden Rings or whatever.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Right now I got a lot of free time. So.
Well, I appreciate it. Okay, well, I'm gonna end the. Do you have any like socials or anything? You don't do socials, do you?
I do, but I'd rather not share.
Okay,
them with
no
the,
problem. No problem.
The open internet, pretty much.
Yeah. We'll just keep it here where I hang out. But I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. I want to say thank you very much to Jackel and then everybody listening. I know it's kind of a lengthy episode, but I hope you get to enjoy it. We'll probably break it down to 2 episodes, have it released one week and then the other one the next week or something. But other than that, though, I want to say thank you guys and thank you, Jackel, and I will see y'all next time. Peace out.
Goodbye, everybody.